It is fight day. Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. It's been a long week here in Las Vegas, but let's just jump straight into it. It's fight day. Shout out everybody from the UK. I know it's getting to that time where you're thinking about taking a nap. Hopefully we can keep you all entertained as we build up to arguably the most important fight of the year, the most important fight for many, many years. Just jumping on now, we've got to do a few little bits of housekeeping before we get going, change the thumbnails and do whatever. Just going to let people join and build up here before we get going. Been a busy week here in Las Vegas. The prelims have already started. We've just got them over in the back. As I understand it as well, the Frank Warren card in Telford in the UK is up and running. So anyone who can keep me updated with what's going on in the live chat, that would be good. Just getting some stuff now. What time is the Ring Walks UK? I don't think it'll be any. Well, definitely it's not going to be any time before 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't have an exact time just yet, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be before 4 o'clock in the morning. That's 8 o'clock in. That would make it 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the evening over here. I've not had an awful lot of sleep this week, which is probably why I am muttering and stuttering. Just going to wait for people to join. Going through now, adding some tags. Hopefully pushing it out so everybody can see what we've been up to. But welcome. We've got a few people here. Biggest fights we made in boxing, says Chris Welch. Absolutely, Chris. I think so. Benny Flores. Don't know what that means. We in here. We absolutely are TT. Don't know whether or not that's, could be my mum. Tracy Tebbutt. Big her up. Benny Flores, Team Spence. Who are you? Everybody else, Team Spence, Team Crawford. Let us know in the live chat. Umar K, yes, Rob T, yes, Umar K, big up yourself. Tell us who you think is going to win tonight. It's going to be Errol Spence, it's going to be Terence Crawford. Get them answers in the live chat. Okay, we've got Dan Wakeling, Crawford win, Omar Woods, and still, Omar, they've both got belts, and still what? Who's going to have what? There's going to be a new undisputed champion. It can't be an and still, I don't think, here. Have you seen the Caleb Plant slap? Yes, I have. Lunging left hook from Caleb Plant. Jamal Charlo, in activity, but showed a good set of whiskers, didn't go down. So here we go. We're waiting. We've got Nonito Donaire, still got it, huh? Well, we'll find out. Bore Snore, great name, by the way, like it a lot. We'll find out tonight because Alejandro Santiago is exactly the type of test I think that will show us what Nonito Donaire has left at 40 years of age. So we will definitely find out. Are you going to get butterflies in your stomach when they're both in the ring? Asked Jonathan T. Jonathan, I've had butterflies since this fight was announced, mate. I don't know about waiting until they get in the ring. I've had butterflies for the last 5 years. Today it's gone above, but I've got like full-sized eagles inside me rather than butterflies. Trying to keep up with. Okay, we've got quite a few people in here. Okay, don't forget, guys, remember to hit that like button. Push this out to everybody. I'm still vamping at the minute. It will get a little bit more entertaining, I promise. Once we have enough people in here and we get running. Crawford for me. Dinosaur flies inside of me. Exactly, man. It's one of those, isn't it? I've been nervous since the fight was announced. It's one of those types of fights. Philip Ain says Crawford in the 10th round. Yeah, it could very well happen. Crawford on point, says Matt Francis. Is there anybody picking Spence? It seems like a lot of people in here and a lot of people that we spoke to this week are leaning more towards Terence Crawford. Is that you? Or are you picking Errol Spence Jr.? Let us know in the comments. Are you watching the UFC fights tonight as well? Jonathan, you will be kicked. You'll be kicked forcibly from the Boxing News Live and you will never, ever return if you ever mention the UFC ever again. So, no, I'm not going to be. Feel like I'm fighting tonight. So much pent-up excitement about this. Just Jordan Zoo. Yes, I absolutely feel what you mean. I'm absolutely buzzing. Or that might be the 17 cups of coffee that I've had already today. Trying to wait. We've got 100 people in here. 100 people. Only 18 likes, though. The math is just not mathing on these live streams. Got over 100 people and only 18 likes. It must mean that, 82 of you don't like what we're doing, which makes me really sad, to be honest. Makes me want to shut this live down. Not going to do that, though. Not going to do that. I'm going to give you a bit of time. Hit that like button. Support the thing. Let's go. Andrew Ellis says draw, then rematch. We're going for a lot of people are picking a draw, to be fair. I think there's plenty of value on it. Obviously, two-way rematch clause. It would make the rematch very, very big. Get a few likes coming in now. That's it, guys. Come on. Show the value. Otherwise, Ben's not going to be able to eat tonight. If we don't get at least 100 likes, Ben has to go hungry. Rob, was last night's weigh-in ceremonial both looked huge? Asked Brian. Yes, it was. There was a weigh-in first thing in the morning yesterday. By the time Errol Spence and Terence Crawford both got on the stage, they both had a little bit of rehydration. Both looked very full. I think you could see that in the stomach. There was nothing sucked in. The faces looked pretty good. But who knows what they look like in the morning? I mean, it's starting to happen a lot more often now with these big fights. You get the official weigh-in, as it were, behind closed doors first thing in the morning, and then the ceremonial weigh-in in the afternoon. Not a huge fan of that, I have to say. I do like it when we get them both on the stage, both trying to make the weight, both like seething at each other. But having said that, it's been quite nice, the respectful tone this week. So, yeah, just hope it's not a controversial decision. Absolutely. We don't want controversy. I don't want Twitter tomorrow to be an absolute war zone, well, any more than it's already going to be. So no matter who wins this, it's going to be some sort of war on the timeline, but I don't want it to be on the back of a controversial one. We can't have that. Okay, the likes are starting to come in now, guys. It made me feel a lot better about myself, you see. I haven't got much going for myself. I'm a bit overweight, hairy, and whatnot. A few likes, just enough to make me feel very good about myself. Losing that hair quickly, says Andrew McCray. Yeah, I decided to jump before I was pushed, mate. I've always had a bit of a funny hairline, to be fair. Got like a double crown. Who gives a shit? Anyway, yeah, I am losing my hair. Thanks very much for pointing that one out. Do you think this is the perfect time for these two to fight? They're still in their prime. I love it. Yes, I think it is, Jonathan T. I think it is. It's the perfect time for this fight to be happening. Okay, working at 5 a.m, but may phone in sick if ring walks are after 4 a.m. Tony Bacon, you're going to have to call in, mate. You're going to have to call in because it's definitely not going to be before 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK. That would make it 8 o'clock in the evening. What are we doing? Is Tris going to come? Is Tris going to jump on? Tris Dixon has been an absolute staple of the lives, and he's going to jump in now. Somebody's asking, where's Barry? Who cares where Barry is, man? We've got Tris Dixon here joining us live from Las Vegas. Tris, thanks for joining us once again. It is fight day. A moment that I think we kind of, not quite never expected to happen, but we have waited a long time for it, and it's finally here.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think like the last couple of days, the fighters haven't said much, but everything they've said, they haven't wasted a word, have they? And everything's been said with force, meaning, and intent. And it's really. I think you can see on social media, and even now it's reaching out beyond social media, to the wider public, which is where this fight's always deserved to be acknowledged. The last couple of days, the momentum has been incredible, and you can feel it out here, and this is one of the benefits of being at a fight week and on the ground is even just coming over to the tent today, there's a queue for the last remaining tickets. There was a queue for an hour and a half of people trying to get into the arena just to see the ceremonial weigh-in yesterday. There, I've been over at the MGM Grand, which isn't even the official or it's not the nearest hotel, and it's buzzing with fight people, just to drop some names of, Evander Holyfield walking around, Tommy Hearns walking around, Anthony Durrell just caught there, and, just it's fight time, and the fight world has stopped to focus their eyes on what happens here tonight.
It's so exciting. Every time anybody talks to me about it today, I'm like a kid in a candy shop.
I was speaking to Algieri last night. I went out with Chris Algieri. And, I said to him, because Chris does a lot of media work now.
Yeah.
And I said, are you sick of this now? And he's like, no, I can still talk about this one.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. There's still even more to unpack. And every time you think you've covered every base, and I've just written a preview this morning for ProBox TV. Plug ProBox TV.
There we go.
News.
Big up ProBox TV.
Check out that, please. Yeah, and it's one of those you don't get sick of it. You just think, oh my god. And as another name drop, but just everyone spoke to him yesterday. But Austin Trout, former super welterweight world champ, he hit me with the line of the week so far when he said, "This fight is a matchstick away from an explosion."
He was good. We had him over here, Austin Trout. Yeah, I really like that one. Although, to be fair, I'm going to put it as a close second to your banana analogy earlier on in the week. I quite like the banana analogy.
That made TNT Sports as well.
Oh,
I got
did
on
it?
there as well. Yeah.
Oh, God.
People like the banana. I think that should be a boxing metric moving forwards.
Yeah. What state is the banana in?
Is it green? Is it brown? Or is it just about right? Yeah.
Davis Garcia was quite green, wasn't it? It was one of those green bananas. That probably needed to be in the fruit bowl for maybe a year or so.
I'm not sure. I thought that was possibly even bright yellow,
But banana talk here from Las Vegas. This is the only place that you can get fruit and boxing ahead of Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford.
Fruit bowl you never knew you needed.
That's not the Super Bowl. This is the fruit bowl. But this is not as ripe a banana as we've had in a while. But we're gonna get off the fruit talk here. Obviously, any questions in the live chat for Tris or any of our other guests that we have on, or for me, if you want food recommendations, just put it into the live chat and we'll do what we can. Tris, what's been your highlight of the week? There's been various kind of landmark moments. I think it's really started to heat up from Thursday onwards. If I could pinpoint one piece from the week for you, what would it be?
Tough one. And we've not been spoiled, but the ones that spring to mind are in reverse order. In fact, no, let's build up towards it.
Yeah, go on.
Was the very end of the press conference where they did the back and forth, where they were like, I'm gonna keep you in line. Crawford said, you're getting out of line, and Spence said, I've been getting out of line my whole life.
Yeah.
That was great. That little exchange. So that one on the Thursday was just the right amount of intensity without boiling over. And then the weigh-in yesterday. It's funny, like Elliot Wurzel, the brilliant Elliot Wurzel at Boxing News, has written this piece this week about Crawford being an introvert. And to see him swagger on stage, dancing, rapping, relaxed, I'm like, that's the Crawford we all wanted to see
over the years.
Yeah, like, why have you been hiding this? Why has it taken this moment to show us something? I thought that was great because I was like, see, we knew there was something there. We knew there was the character underneath. And then obviously the final thing was the head-to-head, wasn't it? Where it's like, is it going to go off? Is it going to go off? And then they shake hands. You're like, nah, this is cool.
This is serious. This is real.
This is respect, and it's old school. And it's like, as I put in my preview, it's almost Hagler-esque, like nasty, bitter, but incredibly respectful.
When we caught up earlier on in the week, Tris, we kind of went round the houses and up and down and back and forth and what have you. And we both spoke about the fact that, it is the type of fight where you're having your coffee in the morning, you like Spence and the size and the activity, and then by the time you're having your mid-morning fruit snack, we're not going to go back to the bananas. The mid-morning fruit snack, you start to look at Crawford and his punching power, and then you start to think about Spence. Where are we now? Where are we on this seemingly the roller coaster of picking between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford?
I sort of committed to you guys earlier in the week, and I've sort of just stayed with that. But I'm as flaky as it sounds, and it just speaks volumes about how good the fight is. I'm just back to a coin toss, and it is like, I don't see how you could. I do think, like, the only thing I thought about is if Terence is that good, and he's switching and he really finds a rhythm, and Spence can't hang with the rhythm and he can't break through with his work rate, body work, frosty, then there is the outlier of this is Crawford makes Spence look silly. I don't see it, but if he does, we'll all look pretty silly at the end, and Crawford will look like the pound for pound number one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both said earlier on in the week, I think if someone dominates the fight, I expect it to be Crawford, but I don't expect someone to dominate the fight, if that makes sense, from my perspective.
Yeah, I think, and this is why we're at 50-50. And I think, as well, there's so many, there's people saying, almost like a given, Spence takes the early rounds, Crawford wins the later rounds, which equals a draw, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. I've got no certainty. And I think the more I thought about it, the less certain I become as well.
Yeah.
And I've just picked Spence for the reason that I said him earlier in the week, and I've just stuck with it. But I do think, not in a derogatory way, I do think Crawford's the better fighter. But he's also the older fighter, and I'm not sure he's got the same ambition and hunger as Errol. But prove me wrong. Like, I'd be, happy to be proven wrong for the sake of a great fight.
Somebody here, wrinkled Brian. You could see that Bud was nervous. I just don't agree with that. Sorry, Brian. Brain, wrinkled brain. Yeah, that makes
maybe
sense.
the nervous thing was an introvert trying to be an extrovert. You know,
just
if you
thought-
get up on stage in front of 10,000 people and dance, I don't know how it takes a certain special person to do that.
But I think like we've spoken about this, and there was one or two kind of tweets flying around about it. About look, it's been one of the things that's been leveled at Crawford throughout his career. I mean, we've spoken about it. The fact that he's not someone who dances around and makes these wild proclamations, and he's very much a serious character. But he has shown glimpses of that personality. He's just he's not. He's not really been in a position whereby he's kind of had to do it. And it's one of the things I said to our colleague yesterday. It's nice to see, people going back and forth when there's a genuine unknown about the fight. I mean, sometimes you'll kind of get, I mean, with respect, I think we've seen it a little bit from Giovanni Cabrera, where it's like, okay, fair enough, great, but you are a significant underdog in this fight. And likewise from Pitbull Cruz. If Pitbull Cruz was giving it to him, you're like, okay, that's great, but you're a significant favourite in the fight. Whereas Crawford has always kind of kept himself to himself. And I guess, I don't know whether or not it's because he has like a worthy dance partner in this instance, and it is such a big fight. He's just allowed himself to be a little bit more out there. I don't know, but I've really enjoyed it, whatever it's been. And just those little glimpses into Crawford's, I guess, showmanship, which has never really been part of what we've kind of associated with him so far in his career.
What it shows me is that not only have we waited for this platform and this fight, but he's waited for this platform and fight as well, and now he wants to lap it up and enjoy it. That's what I'm getting from it, is the sense that, he sees this very much as his moment and he wants to enjoy it. And that's what I got when he was on stage doing what he was doing, singing, dancing, all the stuff, swaggering up and down. That's what I was getting from him. He was like, and the thing is as well, like wrinkled brain, they're probably both nervous. Then the night before the biggest fight of their lives, like, there's so much on boxing and fear through the history. Obviously, if you study Customato, the great old trainer who used to talk so much about fear, who then fed his information down to Mike Tyson. And, George Foreman once said, when I was looking at Joe Frazier in the eyes, I was so pleased he was looking at my eyes because he couldn't see my knees knocking together. And, Mike Tyson has said, he's been terrified before his fights. Like, these guys are 24 hours away from a huge fight. Of course they're nervous. They both are. And yesterday and today, it's about how you control those nerves. And I think you talk about, was it someone on the undercard earlier in the week? It was a great line. I can't remember who said it now. It might, I don't know. But he said, I'm going to take my nerves and turn them into happiness. I think it was Yoenis, the Cuban.
Yeah. Oh, that was it. Yeah, he was at the Grand Arrivals. He said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit nervous," which I think was quite nice to hear the fight being really open about that.
On the Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I mean, bloody hell, if these guys aren't nervous now, like so close to, what people are saying is the mega fight of the year, if not the generation, there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely, but that is not us, because I'm nervous as well. As somebody was saying earlier, do you have butterflies? I said I've had butterflies since the fight was announced. I think it's been one of those fights that the closer it's come, the more and more it's built. And this week for me, it's turned into a bit of fever pitch. Although that could be the coffee, could definitely be the coffee. Anyway, we're going to try and get some questions in for Tris. There's 449 of you here watching us now. Don't forget to hit the like button. We've only just started here, so we've got plenty of time to go before Spence versus Crawford. We're going to try our best to keep you all company with some insight. Well, Tris will do the insight. I'll do the jokes. But there we go. What time does the main card start UK time, lads? Tris, you might know that from TNT. Does TNT tell you?
No, I've not even thought about it from the UK perspective, sadly, very selfishly.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't need to worry about this.
It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. is the pay-per-view, is the start of the pay-per-views, which will be 1 o'clock in the morning, yeah. So I would imagine 1 o'clock in the morning, guys, from TNT. It sounds about right. Anyway, Babs, shout out Babs, says, what would be the most surprising outcome in your eyes from tonight?
I mean, I kind of mentioned it, but Crawford picking him apart early and probably stopping him in the middle rounds. And Spence, we talk about Spence, and I've talked about Spence and his engine and that, and Spence never really getting going and getting out of the starting blocks. And Crawford making that quick start, which he's not used to making, putting Spence in a negative position early on, and Spence not being able to handle the angles and the fluidity of a rampant Crawford. That would be surprising, but possible. I mean, obviously, you could say, you know, someone walks out and chins the other one. It's going to be a shock.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I think a one-sided fight would surprise me.
Yeah, I agree. One-sided fight either way, and if anything goes before 6-7 rounds, I'd be very surprised. I mean, obviously, as you've said there, I mean, if it goes in 1 or 2, that's obvious. That's going to be a surprise. But I think even look,
but you say that. I mean, what wouldn't be a surprise? And I know that people. I mean, we've all tempted fate now.
We've said
I've heard Abrams all week. And you know, what wouldn't be a surprise if it goes early, but they've absolutely laid into each other for 3 rounds. You know, that wouldn't be a surprise. Wouldn't be a surprise. That's something that we've, you know, has been debated here. And this is, you know, at the grand arrivals, Spence said, you know, if he fights me hard, I'm going to fight him harder.
Declan Taylor asks, who wins a 6-3s contest, Chris Glover or Wally Downs? Tris is having a think about this one. This is serious business.
Glover's box pro.
6-3s, yeah? Wally Downs, is he unbeaten white collar, though?
Is he?
I think so. He's unbeaten.
I don't know. One thing is, I mean, it sounds a bit too much like influencer boxing to me. It's not for me.
There we go. Chris Glover versus Wally Downs coming to a Misfits card near you. Right, you're going to try and get through a few of these other questions as well. Plenty of you in here. Over 500 have joined the live now.
It's terrifying to think that. Don't you think? Are you looking down the barrel there thinking there's 500 people there waiting for you to slip up or say something stupid, grab something, turn you into a GIF?
Yeah, to be fair, Tris, I've made a fool of myself so many times over the years that I've kind of become immune to it.
Have you
now.
been a GIF yet?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Actually,
I have. Listen, like, I love him, right? So I'm not going to say anything bad about him. But I've had the head superimposed onto the Dan Raphael sweatsuit, the cardigan, a few times. Yeah. So I've got that going for me. So yeah, more
kind of makes you a meme.
Yeah, I'm a meme. Have I done anything gifable? GIF worthy. I don't know if anybody wants to make a little Spence Crawford GIF.
If anyone wants to make a Rob Tebbutt meme,
yeah,
yeah.
Meme comes. I tell you what, I've got.
How about a Rob Tebbutt Spence Crawford themed meme?
Yeah, I tell you the best meme. If you want to tweet and tag Boxing News and Boxing News Plus on Twitter, I'll get you a poster. How's that? There we go. Anyway, right. Here we go. Matt Christie's still editor. Yes, of course.
Or a notepad.
Notepad, yeah. There's a few notepads.
Free notepad.
Yeah, we've been very clever about our notepads, but yeah, there's a few notepads going around anyway. Matt Christie's still editor. Yes, he is. Big up Matt Christie. Away this weekend. I'll say unfortunately, he's away with his family. I'm sure.
Huge up Matt Christie.
Yeah, huge up Matt Christie. Big him up. But yeah, he's away this weekend, unfortunately. So he's not able to make it out here. Tris, Ariel Helwani stole your banana analogy on Showtime and claimed it as his own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Helwani, man, comes over here, pretends he knows about boxing, and now he's stealing a bunch of lines from people. What is that about? What is that about?
Wow. Oh, he stole it. I know we spoke about it on TNT, and he liked it. I didn't realize he was stealing it. Wow.
That's terrible. Okay. That's outrageous behavior from Helwani. You don't do that in boxing, Helwani. You might do it in the MMA.
I know it would be Matt's call, but instead of a star rating, we need a banana rating.
yeah, banana rating. What was the banana? Let's get off the banana chat.
No, we can't. It's what the people want.
The people demand a banana chat. Anyway, right, let's go. Let's try and get a few questions in. Stop talking about bananas. Okay. Were you more excited for this fight or Mayweather Pacquiao? Well, I already know Tris's answer to that. In Mayweather Pacquiao, and it was kind of one of those like at last. Then this one, it's like we're gonna get it. Right? That's for me. I know your answer already, Tris, but for people who may not know, what were you more excited about? Mayweather
Pacquiao? 100%. I mean, you know, 2009, 2010 were the massive hotspots for Floyd and Manny, and it happened in 2015. You know, when so much momentum had been sucked out of it with mostly Manny's change and poor form against, you know, obviously being wiped out by Marquez. He hadn't knocked anyone out or looked emphatic for several years. He'd had a long layoff after the Marquez fight, and rightly so. And he never got that amazing form back. So Although he was obviously still a world-class fighter, he wasn't the same welterweight destroyer who blitzed Miguel Cotto just over there in the MGM Grand.
Yeah, I already knew Triss's answer, but for people who didn't know, yeah, Triss, you didn't even watch it, did you? Did you watch it live?
I didn't come out.
You didn't come out for it. That was.
I watched it live, and do you know what? I actually remember there was a couple of fights but like this. I didn't set my alarm, but I was up, and I was like, it was one of those where you look around and you're like, oh, it's 3:40. You check the clock, and I'm like, okay, I'll go and watch it. So I watched it live, but I didn't set my alarm. Not really out of protest either. It was just, what happened, and it sounds wise, but I mean, loads of people said what happened was what they thought would happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we're going to try and take this question here, which I now can't see because somebody's put a poll on. What was more impressive, Spence's win at Bramall Lane against Kell Brook or Crawford's win in Scotland over Ricky Burns?
Both good considering the times of their career. I go for Spence. Brook, I mean, Ricky, a very, very good fighter, obviously 3-time world champ. But Brook was a real handful. And I know he was obviously coming off the Golovkin fight, but that was a good Kell Brook. So yeah, I mean, Brook was one of the best in the world at the time at welter. So yeah, to go to Sheffield and do that. No offense to Ricky Burns, but that's the question, so that's the answer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say the same thing. I think despite the fact that Brook was coming off the back of the Gennady Golovkin performance, there was still plenty there. And he boxed really well, I thought, for the first half of the fight.
And also, I'm not sure how much was there after Spence as well. That might have been,
Yeah, that's a fair point. And but yeah, I thought Spence had to work a few things out in that, and he was very impressive. So for me, I agree, yes. Okay. What's the coverage been like in general US media? Is this fight moving the needle outside of boxing media? Been quite a sort of well spoken about topic this week, hasn't it? How much is this reaching the casual audience? How much is this reaching kind of the more general sports fan and beyond? What do you make of it, Triss?
I do think the last couple of days it's really picked up. And, when you look at casual interest, you only need to look at some of the people walking around the hotels or in the queues and all the rest of it. And they're like, oh wow, like they're coming to the party late and their eyes are being opened. And I think with the job that the media are doing here and getting the stories out there, and obviously what the fighters have done the last couple of days in terms of picking it up, I think that's been a pretty organic momentum shift from being high end trade fight to actually going into that wider marketplace, to the point where if it delivers, and to the point where I would speculate this, but if it delivers and there's a rematch, I actually think the rematch would probably be, in terms of numbers and metrics, probably twice as big.
Yeah, it's a conversation that we had last night with Dan Matthews, in between him jumping in and out of the blackjack table and being a general handful in all of the casinos in Las Vegas. There's posters all around Sin City looking for Dan Matthews of the Daily Mail. I'm only joking. If you work for the Daily Mail, he's a good boy. He's doing his behaviour. He's behaving. Anyway, sorry, Dan. That's one of the things that he said about, the first fight. And this might just be the introduction that that these fighters need to a more wider public. If it's a brilliant fight and it's kind of Corrales Castillo and like there's some sort of amazing ending or even controversial ending, what we saw with Froch Groves and how the rematch really captivated the whole country, something like that would be fantastic. And I do feel like, aside from a blowout, let's say, I don't know, Crawford blows Spence away and Spence after the fight says, I was really struggling at the weight, I'll have to go up to 154, and Crawford doesn't want to go up there for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. I think we'll get a rematch. I don't really see any scenarios where the rematch doesn't happen. Can you?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this annoyingly this week. It's too straightforward for boxing, isn't it? It's too straightforward. I really hope, obviously, that's the case. But Spence talking about moving up in weight. Crawford, even I saw an interview recently from 2022, so back end of last year, talking about retirement and different things. So, I think the return is going to be easier said than done. I don't think it's all that straightforward. I hope I'm wrong. And obviously, best case scenarios, where are we now? July. I don't think we'll get back here this year. It might, It might even be 12 months. I don't think they do this in the spring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the best case scenario. I think the interesting thing when you talk about those big fights is, and particularly when you talk about Mayweather and Pacquiao, like they both had those sort of star maker performances against, Floyd became pay-per-view after Arturo Gatti, and then he became a megastar after
De La Hoya.
De La Hoya. Manny, same thing, star after De La Hoya. They were a star maker. They needed to sort of inherit someone else's legacy to be up there. These guys need to deliver against each other to go to that next level, which I find really interesting. So you've got two current stars. They've got no legendary name to piggyback off. It's about what they do in the ring that will take them to the next level. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so intriguing, right? If they want to get to that promised land of elite, then it's down to what happens tonight.
Absolutely. Question here for you, Tris. Can you kindly ask Tris, who has the better chin between Spence and Crawford?
Yeah, it's another thing I've been thinking about. I think Spence. Again, like some of the things you sort of, because you've been talking about them all week, like you go back to him and you're like, well, he's got a really good chin, but what if the weight's bothering him? What if this is a fight too far at 147? Is he going to be as sturdy and all the rest of it? I actually, from what I've seen this week, and obviously I was seeing bits that other people haven't seen at the start of the week, I actually think he's going to be okay at the weight. I don't know that. Obviously, I'm not monitoring him day in, day out. But I actually think from what I've seen, I think he's going to be okay at the weight. But I think they've both got sturdy chins. I don't think either of them will win the fight with one punch.
Okay, we're going to try and get a few more questions. Actually, I've got a question for you. So for people who are not necessarily kind of obviously privy to what a day in the life of one of the best boxing reporters in the game, Mr. Tris Dixon. I had to get it in there, Tris. You're great. Anyway, how is the what's your day today? Obviously, we've been in early, pretty much as soon as it was open. We were both here. What's your day like after the fight? What does your post fight look like? And then what's your day like tomorrow?
So yeah, I mean, I'm not your average bear, am I? Like, I'm here in Vegas, so I try to cover as many bases as possible. So I have just come into the media tent now because I get FOMO that something is in here, fear of missing out, that someone's walked in and I need to be getting some content with them. So like, fortunately, it's not heaving right now, but I've been on the floor in the MGM Grand looking for people. Like I said, I just bumped into Rachel Danae and Nito's wife and had a long conversation with her. Saw Tommy Hearns, been speaking to Ray Mercer, and I'm just trying to get stuff off diary, and also, while you're out here, solidify your contacts, spend some time with people. So now I'm going to go back to my hotel, which is quite close by, fortunately, freshen up, get ready for the fight. I filed my last preview, which is the last thing I'll file now before the fight. Covering the fights with my colleague Alan Dawson tonight, so we'll be splitting the undercard and I'll be picking up the main event. And then after the fight, we'll be speculating about what's going on. We'll be doing the press conferences. Because it's Western time, hopefully it's not into 2-3 in the morning or anything like that, because we're on the Pacific time. And then tomorrow morning, I fly back tomorrow, but I'm actually supposed to be meeting former light heavyweight contender Derek Harmon in the morning for a podcast. So yeah, I mean, it's flat out. I mean, so I'm a guy who considers himself fairly health conscious, and so I do track my food, recovery, sleep, and my training. And like I'm a steady sort of 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night guy, and over here it's been between 4.5 and 5 hours 45 of sleep, just because while I'm out here I want to get all the work done that I possibly can, and that means not going to bed like you said, first one in, last one to leave. You get that FOMO, and even if you're not doing something, if you're back at the hotel kicking up, like it's not a holiday, like, and if someone gets something that you haven't got, you're like, oh geez. And also, for me, like, obviously I've been off diary to a few of the gyms as well. Like, it is about contacts and building relationships and rapport with people. So even like Monday was a chaotic day for me. I was here, there, and everywhere, and I didn't really get a load, but I met a load of people, got some contacts, got some, swapped some information and phone numbers and that kind of stuff. Like it's a bit of a stupid thing not like a stupid analogy, but it's all money in the bank for moving forwards. And you're sort of trying to build your network really, and just try and make these trips pay. So it's been a really long week because I've been out here since the Sunday, not complaining in one little bit, but I bought 4 books to read, and I finished one book. I had like 20 pages left to read, which shout out Sean Nam about Tyrone Everett.
Sean Nam.
So that's it. It's not been a holiday. It's quite funny. Before I come out, I'm quite stretched in the UK anyway. And people are like, oh, I hope you managed to get some downtime over there. I'm like, I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting it. Don't hold your breath.
You'll have a nice chilled one in Las Vegas for a big busy fight.
Yeah, exactly. I just go around and do a pool party at Wet Republic, shall I? Yeah, great.
Okay, Tris, before I let you go, tell everybody here where to find your work, where to find all of the best Tris Dixon, Spence Crawford post-fight content.
Yeah, so I've got loads of my written work up on ProBox TV News through the week. So spoken to Austin Trout, has obviously covered all the main events of the week, press conferences, grand arrivals, weigh-ins. My big preview, breaking down the fight, has gone up there today. And then, follow my podcast, Boxing Live Stories, where I have the great and the good of boxing royalty and a cross-section of boxing personalities week in, week out.
Big up Boxing Life Stories, one of the best podcasts out there in boxing, in sport, and indeed the world. Tris Dixon, thanks very much again for giving us your time.
Thanks, have you gone down? What are you on now? Because you said about 450.
We're on 591.
Okay, I'll take that.
Minute.
I'll take that. So if there's a chart,
I was going to say,
I'm on the uptick.
We're going to see how Dan Matthews impacts on the viewership at the minute, because we're going to drag Dan Matthews of the Daily Mail over onto the live. But thanks very much to Tris Dixon, who is just leaving us now, and he's going to be replaced by the one and only, the terror of Las Vegas, fresh off his big win last night, the man with all of the money, the man with a plan, the man that is Dan Matthews. How are you, mate?
Good. Watch the viewers numbers plummet now.
We've gone up 7 since you've gone on. So there we go. So we're at 598 now. We're about to go through 600 viewers here live in Las Vegas. Don't forget to hit the like button. Only 127 likes with almost 600 viewers. That means like 400 and something of you don't like us, which is really depressing, isn't it, Dan?
Does that make me the A side?
At the minute, yeah. In a fight with Tris, it makes you the A side, mate. But I'm not sure you're going to be the A side when you get in there. Dad, we obviously spoke to you yesterday. You got in on Thursday. You went straight to the press conference. How would you describe your whirlwind trip in Las Vegas so far?
It's been good. It's been really, really good. Obviously, we in the media can be cynical, and people can be generally miserable, and kind of scorn at people who get too excited. And I think for me personally today, walking around the strip, even yesterday at the weigh-in, it's been really hard not to get excited and realise what an event this is and what a fight it is. And I feel like the excitement has been building throughout the week. I feel like it kind of came to the boil at the weigh-in yesterday, which was brilliant. And I just went for a little walk around the arena. It's pretty empty, but I mean, it's an amazing stage. I just can't wait.
As far as weigh-ins go, where would you put that in your weigh-in experiences?
I think it's got to be right up there. I've probably been at weigh-ins where there's been more people, and I've been at weigh-ins where there's been a bit more tension, obviously, because we knew both of them had made weight already, so there wasn't maybe that jeopardy of a normal weigh-in. But I suppose I think it's just the nature of this fight. You're looking for tiny little clues all week, because there's every day, every hour, you're changing your mind about who wins, or there's such small margins, and I think that gave it an extra edge yesterday. Just looking for small things like Crawford coming on and rapping, suddenly you're looking into that way more than you maybe would in a normal fight week. And I think it's just because these fighters are so evenly matched, all the questions about how they match up against each other, I just think everything takes on extra significance, and it made it such a kind of electric spectacle.
Yeah, it's that type of fight, isn't it? Where you just overanalyze and overanalyze and overanalyze because it's such a brilliant fight. Everyone's looking for that little nugget to maybe tell them and inform them as to who's going to be the man on the night. But there isn't really anything there. I mean, you do kind of go again. Crawford came out rapping. He's going to win. Like, it is one of those types of fights. We're going to jump through here and try and grab some questions for Dan. If you've got any questions for Dan or myself, obviously, pop them in there. Ben, can you please go and get me a coffee, you handsome devil? Do you want a drink, Dan?
I'm fine, thanks.
No drink.
Wally Downs is the answer to your earlier question.
Wally Downs, yeah, Wally Downs. I think Wally Downs goes through Chris Glover. So I'm just putting it out there. Too big, too strong. Wally, when he's in camp, he's a different animal. He's a different animal. Out of camp, yeah.
Always raps at weigh-in as well. So.
yeah, Wally Downs coming out with a big rap. He's going to be walked out by Eminem. So anyway, here we go. Right, let's go. Let's try and get some questions. Okay. Somebody said that they stopped watching because I didn't answer somebody's question. I'm really sorry about that, mate. Who's your pick, Rob? My pick is Errol Spence in a very, very close decision. Oh, we have a super chat in from UK Rob Boxing. Fantastic content all week. Thank you. Big up Boxing News every time. Thanks very much, UK Rob Boxing. Always a big fan of everything.
Is that your burner account?
That's not actually, but that could be. Oh, here we go. Ben, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
So there we go. There's Ben. That's why we keep him behind the camera. You see, very, very awkward character, but always responsible for us doing well. Viewers have gone down for Dan. They've said that actually hasn't. He's actually up. So I don't know the math is not mathing for people, Dan. I don't know. Dan, do you have any questions for me? Because we're trying to get some questions in. I think everyone's just writing the big long ones.
You just said you thought Spence wins a close decision. How do you see it? How do you see it unfolding?
I think Spence will try and get behind the jab early. I think Crawford will try and have a look. I don't see Crawford starting fast. And then the middle rounds, I think Crawford will adjust, have some success. And then the last few rounds, I think, will be very nip and tuck. I think Spence will build a little lead at the start. Crawford comes into it. Then a close last third of the fight. And then all hell breaks loose on Twitter when the decision comes out. When there's a 119-109 for Spence and a 114-114. And it's going to be an absolute chaotic evening.
Do you envisage Crawford boxing southpaw, orthodox, bit of both?
That's actually a question that we've just had from Paul Johnson. How does Bud start orthodox? I think he boxes orthodox. I think he's an orthodox fighter. Yes, he can box southpaw and he's very good doing it, but I'm not sure. We said this yesterday on the live. Like, I think that he's a very potent offensive southpaw, but I think he gets hit more when he's a southpaw. So yeah, and if he goes southpaw, and then that will line up pretty nicely for him to have an absolute tear up. But I do see Crawford switching, but I think he's going to predominantly be orthodox. What about you?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think he might have a look back at Spence's previous fights and see, presumably without just off the top of my head, you'd assume that Spence is much more used to fighting orthodox fighters, so therefore he might show him something different early on. But at the same time, this is such a close fight where he's going to have to be at his best, so maybe he should be doing what he feels most comfortable with. And as you say, if orthodox is his most natural stance, and that makes sense to start in that, and then he's got the option to change. And I wonder whether my fear for Spence is that my fear for Crawford in this fight is that if he goes behind, that all that versatility and the switch hitting and stuff, not that it's always going to be a weapon, but I wonder whether against someone as fundamentally good as Spence, whether that can be used against him and he can become a bit ragged and he's kind of searching for something extra, rather than, obviously he's used to being the dominant fighter and used to kind of fighting on his terms. If he falls behind early on and Spence gets into a nice rhythm, then suddenly if he's switching stances, if he's kind of losing his own rhythm, then suddenly he can become a bit ragged, and I think that could potentially play into Spence's hands. But I mean, it's so intangible, so many ifs in that scenario. Yeah,
no, there is, and that's why this is such a brilliant fight. You can talk around the houses about almost every facet of the fight and still find new little threads to, probably not even threads there, but identify what you think is a thread to pull on it, but they're not really there. But you mentioned a point about Crawford. Crawford commits to all of his shots as well. So if he gets the sense that he might be able to hurt Spence, he'll go for it. And Spence is very cool under pressure, very good in the pocket and kind of staying in there with shots flying over his head. So I could definitely see a scenario whereby Crawford does commit and does try to kind of go for it essentially. And then Spence has his chance to punch with him and catch him in the exchanges.
And the thing is, it's like you're talking about two such elite boxers that when you talk about a fight, I mentioned Crawford potentially getting ragged. I mean, in relative terms, he would still be, be fighting at a level that would beat 99% of fighters. But it's at this level against someone as accomplished as Spence, he only has to lose a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of timing, and that then suddenly everything snowballs in terms of its significance.
John Cahill asks, who do you think will have more support in the arena? Seemed 50-50 at the weigh-ins.
Well, yes, funny you say that, because I was sitting next to Coral from the BBC, and in my ear, I turned to her and said, it seems like the crowd's pretty pro-Spence. She said, I was just about to say the crowd seemed pretty pro-Crawford. So he said, well, that probably means it was about 50-50 then. I don't know. I mean, Spence is obviously a big ticket seller back home. I'd say I've seen much more today walking around. I've seen much more Spence t-shirts being worn, Spence merchandise. I've seen a few Bud Crawford t-shirts. I imagine it will be fairly split, but I think probably Spence will be slightly bigger, like have slightly more support. What about you?
I think Spence is, I think it's a Spence crowd from what I've seen. I've certainly seen more people in the Spence merch, and I thought it was quite pro Spence. Certainly at the workout, I thought it was quite noticeable. There was very pro Spence there, which is obviously before you arrived, which was on the Wednesday. But I think it will. I think Crawford's got some support for sure, but I think Spence being the very much the home fighter and the kind of the pay-per-view A side, really, I think it's fair to say that he has more support. We're through 600 viewers now. We're on 639. See, and the real A side. Who's Tris Dixon? I'm only joking. Don't send Tris Dixon over here, man. Squash my head. Like he's at the mountain and then Game of Thrones. But anyway, we're moving on. What kind of weight do you think both will be in the ring, Dan?
That's a good question.
Good question,
Really
UK Rob Boxing.
I mean, I suspect Spence will be quite a bit heavier because Crawford obviously has grown into welterweight and he looks very comfortable at the weight. Looks now like a very natural welterweight. I know that sounds a bit stupid, but you know what I mean. As in it fits him. Whereas Spence does look very slight on the scales, and we're just looking at a poster there and looking at him there in comparison to what he looked like yesterday. Just the size of his frame. But I don't imagine he'll want to be. I don't get the impression from. I did an interview with his nutritionist. I don't get the impression, and watching the All Access stuff, that he's been boiling down in a way like that is dangerous or has been, very, very last minute. I get the impression this has been a bit more of a kind of healthy weight cut. So I can't imagine I wouldn't imagine he'll be throwing on the pounds. What do you think?
I think Spence will be big in there. I think he will put on some weight. There was some talk earlier on this week saying that he may come in at around 170, which is 23 pounds, which wouldn't be, unheard of to put that sort of weight on. A fight that I kind of always go back to of recent times is Jarrett Hurd. Jarrett Hurd used to put on sort of famously used to talk about doing 24 pounds in 24 hours. I think Spence will definitely be a super middleweight. So he'll definitely be over 160. He'll definitely put more than 13 pound on. I think 165, 166. Crawford is, the lighter man and probably the speedier man as well. I don't think Spence will want to be too heavy on his feet. He'll want to try and keep his feet nice and light. But I do think that he'll be definitely over 160, but maybe 165, 166 on the night. We have 342 votes on Spence versus Crawford so far. 54% of you have gone for Crawford. 39 for Spence, and 6% of you are back in the draw, which I think is at 16-1. It is very, very close. You see the PBC one that had the Spence Crawford, Spence knockout, Spence decision, Crawford knockout, Spence, and it was all like 25% each.
I do feel, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like since being here, there seems to be quite a few people who over the course of this week have drifted towards Spence, actually. There are people here who I've spoken to who are picking Crawford, or at least fancied Crawford, over the last few months, and since they've been here over the last couple of days, seem to have drifted towards Spence. So I don't know if that's reflected back home or whether people are, or I'd be interested to know how it's changed back home. But I feel like people here, I think Spence is, I've always felt that people are maybe sleeping on Spence a little bit, and I feel like people maybe this week have started to kind of turn, and I sense a shift towards Spence.
Yeah, I agree. And just as we go, we've got the TNT lot coming past there. John Rawlin and Richie Woodall, big 'em up. Remember, 1 o'clock, TNT Sports. You can catch Spence Crawford. Got to give him a nice little plug. We like John Rawlin. It's the first time we've seen John in a little while, so it's good to see John back at big night boxing. I can't remember what we were talking about then before my random sort of shouty plug at the TNT lot as they walk past. But we're motoring here. Rob Cliche Tebbutt, absolutely. Let's go, champ. We are at 669, 176 likes. Remember, hit that like button, comment and subscribe, all of that good stuff if you want us to be able to afford to keep bringing you this content from Spence Crawford. Otherwise, going to have to sell all of the equipment. Okay, Errol will have close to £10 on Crawford, I bet. Yeah, I think so as well. Any other questions? Let's have a look, Dan. Let's have a look. Oh, we have a super chat from Teddy Boy. Teddy Boy 94. Big up, Teddy Boy. Great content on the ground this week. Loving the lives of people jumping in and out. Shout out the Asylum Boys. Yeah, shout out the Asylum Boys every time. We were out last night with Matt from the Asylum, who was the American chap who won all of the money in Las Vegas at the blackjack table. It was we were playing on the same shoe. He had one box and I had one box, and it just didn't really end well for me. Well, to be fair, I won, but it was a slog. I had to really grind it out, didn't I?
He was Rain Man, I think.
It really was. Unbelievable. Right, okay, Dan, before we let you go, we're going to just throw a few more questions at you. Win or lose, rematch or no rematch, is Spence the final opponent for Crawford in his career, asks Yozza.
Difficult to say. I mean, there has been some mumblings from him, haven't there, about, or at least some suggestions that he's kind of looking beyond boxing, and yeah, I think it would be a real shame. I know he's 35, but he doesn't feel like a 35-year-old who's, on his way out. I think the difficulty is going to be if Spence wins. Well, the difficulty is going to be the weight with the rematch. Like, if he loses, Spence will obviously move up to 154, and then, that's kind of the perfect excuse for him to say I was dead at the weight or whatever and pursue something new at 154. If he wins, then he obviously calls the shots, and then it's up to Crawford whether he wants to go up to 154. I mean, you could argue what more does he have to achieve at 147 if he lost this fight? But suddenly you're asking a bloke who's already won world titles in 3 weight divisions to jump up another one and potentially give up more advantages to Spence, because Spence will obviously be more comfortable at 154 as the media tent's about to fall down.
Very, very windy here in the media tent. Were you in Saudi for Usyk Josh? Oh, did you hear what happened there? Saudi Arabia, we'll take a little bit of a beeline here. In Saudi Arabia for Usyk. No, it was Joshua Ruiz too, wasn't it? And half an hour or so before the show was starting, yes, it was Joshua Ruiz too. We got told that there was a sandstorm down the way, and that the Saudis might decide to postpone the event, and they would just move it 2 weeks, but we'd all have to stay in Saudi. And this is literally like half an hour before. So everyone stood there and I'm like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, well, if they want you to stay, you're going to stay. So that was a nice, so thankfully we did. I mean, nothing against Saudi. I enjoyed being out there, but yeah, probably didn't want to spend an extra 2 weeks there waiting for a fight. Just got to the moment. And then there was a sandstorm down the. I didn't even think that was a real thing, but yeah.
Would you rather spend 2 extra weeks in Saudi or on Las Vegas?
Oh,
Strip?
Vegas. So I'm an unashamed Las Vegas fan, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, is it? You mentioned it earlier about kind of there is this sort of like snooty approach to people who dare enjoy, Las Vegas. So we're boxing people. This is where, the fight capital of the world. And it is, as I say, Disneyland for adults. I'm not quite sure about that, but yeah, I'd definitely rather be in Las Vegas for an extra 2 weeks than Saudi. Although both really, really hot. What about you? Which one? Where are you going to be staying?
Never been to Saudi.
Never been to Saudi.
Never been to Saudi. So, I mean, I have to say I do like Vegas. I've been here a few times. This is my first fight week, but I've been here a few times. So I'm not sure. I think after 2.5 weeks, I think you'd be. I think your stomach would be. You'd need an enema, I think.
Rob has arms like a T-Rex. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Rob, have the sliders made an appearance, or are you still giving out that anyone can get it energy? To be fair, I really wanted to have my sliders today because me being stupid and wearing like actual shoes this week has caused blisters. But yeah, I don't know, man. Sliders at a big show is. It is a vibe, don't get me wrong. I really wish I could do it, but I don't know, man. I'm 32 years of age. I should probably, stop dressing like a 16-year-old chav. But maybe in time. But anyway,
He says while wearing his Spence Crawford
I
t-shirt.
wore it because it's black. That anyway, it's the only black T-shirt that I could get. Are we having connection issues? Are we? How are we getting on? Guys, are we having any connection issues? Are we getting some bits come up on the restream? Just let us know. I don't know whether or not the wind took everybody out. Still just about here in Las. I think. Are you worried about the judging? This fight's not going. Somebody else says maybe. Any more questions that we can throw at Dan? I like how everybody's just fine with me completely distracting them from their work. Maybe they're not fine; they're just too polite to say no, which is probably more likely. But we're going to keep going until we get any more. Where's Bunce in Vegas? Bunce not here this week, is he?
No, I haven't seen him.
Bunce isn't here this week. Will Crawford get a fair shake with the judges? It seems to be coming up an awful lot, doesn't it, Dan? I mean, boxing, but if it's not a clear-cut win,
I think it's a mug's game to tell anyone in boxing not to be worried about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure there will be in his camp an awareness of that, or at least a slight fear of that. I mean, we can only pray, basically, can't we? That's all. We can only hope and pray that if it is a close fight, that it goes the right way. I mean, I know for a fact Crawford won't be considering that this is going to be a close fight with the stuff they're talking about. You know, they both are supremely confident, and both have absolutely no doubt that they're the superior fighter. So I'm sure it's not consuming Crawford, but I'm sure it's nagging maybe at the back of his team's mind. But I mean, what can he do about it? Try and win wide? I mean, it's hard enough trying to beat Errol Spence, let alone trying to beat him wide. So
yeah, I mean, and I'm sure Crawford will be thinking that he's going to stop him anyway. I'm sure he's going to back himself to get the job done inside the distance. But we will see when it comes down to it at night.
I certainly don't envisage, if it's a close fight after 11 rounds, that if Crawford thinks he's ahead, he's going to go hell for leather just to try and win it by stoppage and, you know, take out the judge's hand. He's been quite clear this week. Every time he says it, every time he's asked, are you going to be the first man to stop Errol Spence, blah, blah, blah. He says, I don't worry about that. I think about getting the win first. And, if we believe in him, then I don't get the impression he's going to be putting all his eggs in the basket of stopping the fight early. I think he'll back himself and his skills, and he'll have to put his faith in the judges. But I think he clearly has supreme confidence in his own ability to win the fight fair and square.
Barry pivoting up and down Vegas Strip dressed up as Elvis. Yeah, that's a good one. Jim McDonald, yeah, Barry loves it. Barry's super excited. Do you know how excited he's been? I mentioned this yesterday. He's so excited that he's not abused me once this week. Okay, right. Before we let you go, supposing one or both of the fighters move up to 154, who would you like to see either of them fight against in that division? Could be an interesting one because Jamel Charlo is now going up to 168. I'm not sure we'll ever see him at 154 again.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I'd like to see them fight each other, to be honest, at 154. I mean, that would be at the moment, that'd still be the fight that I'd most like to see. What about you?
Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, I mean that would be
yeah,
a great
Tim
fight.
Tszyu. I don't think we'll see Jamel at 154 again. I think whatever happens against, I think if he beats Canelo, he'll probably stay at 168, or why not? Or maybe go down to 160, but I don't think we'll ever see him again at 154. Okay. Trying to get, we had some requests about the time. The show starts at 5 p.m. So the pay-per-view starts at 5 p.m. local time, which is 1 a.m. UK time on TNT Sports. So that's when the pay-per-view card starts. Obviously, there's undercard before then. If you can catch that on the Showtime Sports YouTube channel. A few questions and a few people asking about the judges for the main event. We have referee Harvey Dock, who's a very good referee. I like Harvey Dock. Judges, Tim Cheatham, had some interesting cards in the past. Such a great name for a judge who's got some suspect scorecards as well, Tim Cheatham. But anyway, David Sutherland, another one with a few interesting ones, and Steve Weisfeld, who's a good judge. But I think it's fair to say all judges kind of have their moments over a period of time, don't they?
Yes. I think you do well to get through your career as a judge in Las Vegas and not have a few marks against your name, put it that way.
Absolutely. Right, okay, we are going to let Dan go now. We've taken enough of his time, but Dan, before we can go, what we want to hear from you is your best Errol Spence Jr. impression from any number of the catchphrases that we've all been shouting at each other all week here in Las Vegas.
Man down.
Man down. Dan down. And he's gone. Dan Matthews
Leave him
from
in the
Daily
dirt.
Mail. He's just left. He's left the mic in the dirt there, and it's just me now. We've probably got about 20 minutes or so until we have to wrap up here. We have a red carpet event. What? Hang on. I'm being told. Okay, we're all good apparently. I don't know what Ben's on about, but anyway, we're probably going to be wrapping up in about 20 minutes, half an hour. Neil Francis, Moses in the ring. Moses Atalma is in the ring, is he? Can you please keep me updated in the chat, if you will, about Moses Atalma and how he's getting on and how he's looking and whatnot? That would be very helpful because I don't think there's any way for us to watch it over here. Tommy Holiday says, do you think Crawford needs the KO, Rob? No, I don't think so. Really? Okay, 1 second. Okay, so maybe we're not going to the red carpet. That's a shame. But anyway, moving swiftly on, it just means that we're going to be here for a little bit longer tonight. We were going to go to the red carpet, but they don't let people like me near red carpets, unfortunately. So yeah, get your questions in to anybody. Rob needs to go full razor. The island isn't the best look. Listen, Dr. Usman, let me worry about my hair and you worry about yours. As you can tell, my appearance is not necessarily the at the forefront of my mind. What fight are you most looking forward to on the undercard, asks Jack Green. I think Nonito Donaire versus Alejandro Santiago. I think that's definitely the best match fight on the undercard. There is also Isaac Cruz versus Giovanni Cabrera, but I don't really think that's going to be too competitive. I think the way Cabrera boxes and the way that Isaac Cruz boxes, I think that one could be done with pretty soon. But yeah, I think for me, Donaire versus Santiago, really interested to see how Donaire looks at 40 years of age. Hasn't boxed in a year since his loss to Naoya Inoue. So you never know. Santiago is a game customer. It could be the night where we see Nonito Donaire get old. Maybe the Inoue fight was where we saw Nonito Donaire get old. The second fight, of course. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he looks. I read the question out, but I'm not sure I actually asked it. Ben, I'm out of focus here, Ben. So we're getting us back in focus. Sorry. What's the atmosphere been like all week compared to other big fight weeks you've been at, Rob? Yeah, it's been great, mate. It has been great. It's been felt like a big fight. It has felt like a big fight. I wasn't out here for Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. By all accounts, that was electric all week. But this has felt like a grand spectacle, like very highbrow, like big fight. Everybody knows it's kind of, there's no bullshit with this fight, if that makes sense. So it's been quite a pure build-up. It's felt like this week. It's been quite like authentic, I think is the word. But yeah, I remember. Well, the last time I was in Vegas was 3.5 years ago for Wilder Fury 2. That was a great build-up. Obviously, the heavyweights kind of brings a different sort of allure to it. But I think this is just so premium. That's probably the right word, actually. It's felt like a very premium event. So, yeah, it's been right up there with the biggest fights, like the biggest fight feels that I've ever had covering anything. So, yeah. Food topic, Krispy Kreme or dildos? I don't know what dildos are, mate, but I love a Krispy Kreme donut. Thank you very much. Always reminds me of the Chris Rock joke, though. It says, Krispy Kreme donuts are so good, if somebody told you there was crack in them, you'd believe it, which I thought was pretty good. Can we talk about Bud's weight cut? Man is drained. I don't think anybody really knows 100%. There's been rumours, but there's always rumours in fight week about somebody's tight at the weight. There's gloves, there's this, there's that. I don't know. We'll have to see on fight night. But I thought Crawford looked fine earlier on in the week. So I don't know. Maybe if you stay long enough, you could get slapped by Caleb Plant. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Luke, Rob, quick maths debate. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Don't know what you're talking about. Right, trying to get through some of the questions. Rob, did you manage to get a sit down or chat with Mike Tyson this week? No, unfortunately not. Tyson is, he's still probably the most famous person who's going to be at the fight. So every time he goes somewhere, he's got a lot of people following him around and trying to get photos. And by the looks of things, he's been very good with fans and everybody speaking to him. There's been a couple of huddles, but in a big fight week like this, sometimes you miss those things. Unfortunately, we did miss the Mike Tyson huddle, but yeah, hopefully catch up with him soon. I mentioned this on the live the other day. I offered him or somebody near him $1,000 to do a sit down, or like I think for 10-minute interview a couple of years back, and yeah, $1,000 to Mike Tyson is what it is to me. So they just said no. Rob, do you think we'll see any knockdowns in this fight? I'm not sure, Joel. I'm not really sure about anything with regards to this fight, I have to say. So I'm not sure. Rob, why did Coppinger not get a media pass? I don't know. Not up to me, so no idea. Are the Charlo's wives on the undercard? That was interesting, wasn't it? We thinking it breaks the million buys stateside? Probably not right. I think if I had to put money on it, I'd probably say no. But I mean, my knowledge of the American pay-per-view market is probably not as strong as, you know, well, it's not stronger than anybody else's, really. I think it will do very good business. Whether it does a million buys or not, it's very difficult to do a million buys. So I'm not too sure, but I think 800,000-900,000 that'd be good. I think if it does a million, that's fantastic. Anyone knows where I can see the match? No BT Sports and Showtime. I'm a Dutchie. Get a VPN and then order it from TNT Sports. Big up TNT Sports. What time is the fight? UK time. It won't be before 4 in the morning. I'd say it's closer to 5 than 4. Is Spence even that much more valuable than Crawford? What do you mean, Tommy? Do you mean from like a commercial point of view? He is a big commercial draw, or a bigger commercial draw. Ben, while we've got you here, do you want to go and see if Alan Dawson wants to return to make his, I think, 3rd or 4th appearance? Just get somebody else here. I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of hearing my voice. What seats have you got, Rob? What do you mean? I've got a seat in the arena. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I do have a seat in the arena. Alan Dawson's making his way over. Okay, Manny is in attendance. Yes, he is. Ben, I'm out of focus again, I think. What's going on? Here he is. We've got Alan Dawson again. So we've been joined once more by the man, Alan Dawson, the big man of Las Vegas, our finest export. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. You just caught me mid-conversation about the food that they're bringing out in the media tent. Have you heard what is being offered?
No, what we got now? You're speaking my language.
Yeah, I know. We've got barbecues. There's mini brisket sliders, smoked chicken thighs. There's corn muffins, mac and cheese, and for any Americans listening, there's beans coming.
Beans?
Yep,
baked beans.
Yeah.
Are they actually bringing baked beans?
There's even a sign there saying baked beans.
Oh,
so
that is unbelievable.
If Lazy Lefty is watching, I was thinking of taking a photo and just sending it to him saying, we've brought the beans over.
I'm hoping that is very specifically for us. Right, don't forget, guys, to please hit the like button. There's 193 likes so far and 654 of you in here. So let's try and get it up to 200 likes. Try and get this algorithm pushing out the live stream. Rob having a masturbate with his final deal. I don't know what you're on about, mate. Okay, I'm going to try and go through some of these questions here. But meanwhile, it's kind of a question I've been asking everybody, Alan, really, about their fight weeks. What have been your highlights so far? What bits can you take away from being out here for this?
I really think the magic that I feel this week and how long the fight week's been. So the fight week started Tuesday with the grand arrivals. It was really reminded me of Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury 2, which was like one of the last events of like pre-COVID. Obviously, COVID was already around at that point, but before the shutdowns happened. And I just feel like this is the biggest event in the post-COVID era. The magic I felt is the same as what I felt in that event, and I'm just so excited that it's finally here. So just all of that's just the activity that's been in here, the amount of fighters and ex-pros that have come and been happy to talk to everyone. And then we've got a red carpet outside. I love a red carpet event because we don't normally get too many of those in combat sports. Whenever there's a Hall of Fame, we kind of have a red carpet event there in Canastota. The UFC brings out the red carpet for the UFC Hall of Fame. So we've got a red carpet outside. I know the sort of celebrities that are coming. Shannon Sharp is big on Fox. Quite a few NFL players, and Stephen Espinoza was telling me that the type of celebrity that is coming to this event are ones that haven't really requested tickets for their events before, and he sees that as like a evidence of like how much this has transcended beyond boxing, because you kind of expect like the Denzel Washingtons to be ringside. He's a known fight fan. You're going to see Mike Tyson obviously on stage as well, but maybe you're not expecting to see Tom Holland, Spider-Man. This might be one of his first Las Vegas fight events, and for him, what a one to come to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Big celebrity attendance is always good. It always gives it that big fight feel, doesn't it? That big energy. We're very much looking forward to that. I'm going to run through a few questions and comments. Dom Rice, don't invite Rob to a buffet. He will eat the lot. Dom Rice, you're going to go into timeout, mate. Don't be talking the hardest on the live stream, mate, because I am a ruthless dictator. So into timeout you go. If you behave yourself, you can come back out. So Dom Rice, you sit in the corner and think about what you've done, mate, yeah? Anyway, moving on. Truth be told, nobody knows the winner of this matchup. It's that close. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right.
I think that's right. Everyone I've spoken to, it doesn't matter if you're picking Crawford or Spence. It always comes down, and everyone kind of says it. Like if you're picking Spence, it doesn't take much to then like think, oh, but maybe Crawford could win. And if you're picking Crawford, it doesn't take much for you to switch and think Spence might win. I'm still edging towards Crawford. I have all week. I thought maybe I might flip yesterday, but I still think if they fought 3 times, Crawford would win the rivalry.
Interesting. Getting a lot of questions here about Eminem. One from Jasmar. Big up Jasmar. Is Eminem doing Crawford's ring walk? What have you heard, Alan? Because it seemed like kind of come out of nowhere really yesterday, didn't it? But I saw Stephen Espinosa kind of allude to the potential and the possibility of it being being a thing. What do you think?
I mean, that came about so late because it seemed to just come up on Thursday on Instagram, and Eminem posted something in a reply on one of Crawford's posts, and then Crawford replied, M, pull up and you can walk with me. So I didn't see his name on the red carpet list, but maybe they're keeping that one back because, if he's going to come and perform like Lose Yourself or something as Crawford's walking to the ring, that would be a pretty special, iconic moment.
It certainly would. It certainly would. Rob, do you not think it's crazy how the American thought like Avanesian was a bum? The way Crawford dismantled him was unreal. Avanesian was a wrecking machine. Alan, obviously, as a Brit now based in the States, you would have been probably more familiar with a lot of the American counterparts about David Avanesian. Were you impressed with the way that Crawford dealt with him?
I mean, bum is such a strong word, but there's definitely levels in boxing. And to get to British level is a really strong level. To get to the national level in America is a good level. To go beyond that, European level is good, is even better. World level, and then beyond that, you're at the elite. I saw at Avanesian, what people might be saying as a bum might be what people over in this country are thinking of as European level. So I was always expecting Crawford to do kind of what he did to someone like Avanesian, and to me, that's kind of what Crawford's 147-pound career has been. I'm not impressed with his. I'm impressed with his abilities, but I'm not impressed with his, his stay in this division. And it's a complete contrast to what Spence has done, who has just basically been taking on top 5 opponents, if not world champions.
Questions coming in. Do we get a live tomorrow in the media room with guests / pundits reviewing the fight? I don't know, because I don't think the media room is open tomorrow, and I'm not really sure where we're going to be able to film. Ideally, there will be some sort of live. It might just be me talking into the camera and talking and trying to take some of the questions, which is probably not the most exciting thing, but we'll try our best. I'm not really sure what the plan's going to be for tomorrow. Dr. Usman says, any sit-down plan with Mauricio? No, we planned to do something yesterday morning, and then we've just been busy. We've had a lot going on, and we've been doing a lot of things, so we didn't have the chance to catch up. I haven't actually interviewed Mauricio since the WBC convention last November, so I'm planning on catching up with him soon, but I haven't yet. Who would KO Eminem quicker, Spence or I'm assuming you mean Spence or Crawford, and not me or Alan? But I'll go with Crawford. Yeah, I'll go with Crawford.
I'm not sure I'd rate. I think out of all the rappers, I think 50 Cent would probably be the one. I mean, he's getting a little bit older now. There's probably someone a lot younger who would. Wiz Khalifa has got good MMA skills. Apparently, he's a bit of a kickboxer. But yeah, the 2 that come to mind in the rap game are Wiz and 50 Cent for me. I'm not sure I've ever associated Eminem with combat finesse.
Do you think Crawford has the pop at 147 to keep Spence honest?
I mean, this is what it comes like. Barry Jones said something to us when I was asking about how big of a role nutritionists could play in this camp, because if Spence is going to comfortably make the weight, and he does come in at say 168, 170, and that's a weight class above what Crawford will be, maybe Crawford won't maybe that pop won't affect him, but from what Barry was saying, the drain and then the rehydration can affect your chin. I think it all just depends on how you see the fight. And what's great about this fight is that some people are going to be proven right or wrong, but there's such a mixture of opinions. But I'm in the camp that I think Spence will be too big for Crawford to finish him. I think I see it as a Crawford decision win, but the other result that I've got in my back pocket would be, if there is going to be a knockout, I actually think it would be from Spence.
Really interesting. I think Crawford definitely has the power to keep Spence honest, in my opinion. Crawford is a very dynamic puncher, and it's something again that Barry had said that we hadn't necessarily considered with Crawford early on in his career. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't something that we kind of regarded him as. It was more of a skilled technician, whereas in the later stages of his career, he has become a dynamite knockout puncher. So I think Ugas obviously got a reaction from Spence. I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact that he was hurt as badly as some people thought, but I do think that if Ugas can get your attention, then I do think Terence Crawford can as well. Although I think Spence has a very good chin and is very durable.
How much of let's say the first 3 rounds, how much of those 3 rounds do you think will actually be the theme of the whole fight?
Well, I don't know, because I think a lot depends for the early rounds. I think depends on Crawford. I think Crawford will have to start faster, or it wouldn't surprise me to see him start faster than we've seen him in the past. But having said that, if he doesn't and Spence picks up those early rounds, I just don't see anybody ever dominating a fighter of Crawford's skill. I think he has enough strings to his bow, and he's such an astute offensive fighter that he'll always find a way to get his shots off, always find a way to have his moments and have his spells. So I do feel like regardless of how this fight goes, it's going to go up and down and up and down. There will be ebbs and flows. There will be adjustments that need to be made from both guys. And it wouldn't surprise me if in rounds 10, 11 and 12, that it's really anybody's fight, and it could go either way, and that's kind of what I hope happens. Really, I don't want to.
That would be what warrants the rematch, because I said it before. I'm not sure if it was on this stream earlier in the week or another one, but with Davis Garcia, it was such a big performance from Davis that it made the pre-fight calls of a rematch completely redundant. There's a rematch clause here. I would love to see those ebb and flows, because Spence Crawford 2 would be a hot thing later in the year, preferably when it's cooler in this city. Rob, let me ask you another question, because this is your first time in Vegas since, was it Wilder Fury 2? So what's been your highlights of this fight week back in the fight capital of the world? Is it seeing me?
Yes, other than seeing you, Alan, of course. I enjoyed the press conference. I thought the press conference was spicy, and I wasn't expecting it. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed it. And I was actually sat directly behind the member of Spence's entourage, family, or whoever it was that ended up having the back and forth and the argument with Terence Crawford. Oh, thank you very much. That's very helpful of you. See, we don't get this in the UK. Like, media people, if you're looking at this, like, we need to be, they've also got steak and all sorts back there. It's wonderful. We should see it at the next Matchroom show. But yeah, no, I think the press conference for me, because I didn't expect it. I've never seen Derek James act like that.
No, that was quite out of, well, maybe it was in character, but it was out of character from what we've seen from him in the media. Yeah, for sure. That definitely was something I saw. Yeah.
And I thought the weigh-in kind of brought things together quite nicely. That was kind of like the sort of the crescendo, and then.
Did you like Crawford's entrance? I thought Crawford, he had great
really
swag,
good.
and I thought he really captivated. I really thought it'd be a pro-Spence crowd as well. I'm surprised that it's really it's even, just like how the fight pretty much is. I was expecting it to be a pro-Spence crowd tonight, and I don't think it will be. I think it will be. I think the boos and the jeers and the cheers, I think they'll be for both fighters, and we won't really be able to see who's got more fans. But yeah, Crawford's got far more fans than I thought, and they're whether they're traveling from his home city and state in Nebraska, or whether they're here anyway, or maybe he's more of a nationwide star than what I thought. Like, for me, Spence is a face of American boxing, and if Crawford wins, he could easily replace him as that face.
Absolutely. Has your opinion on the fight changed at all this week? Has there been anything in the week that's made you change what you're thinking, or has there been any little tidbits that you thought, okay, I didn't necessarily expect that, and it's kind of impacted on your thinking?
Sometimes I do kind of like switch depending on how confident people see at the weigh-in, but if anything, I'm kind of I'm still in the Crawford camp. to see him. I'm expecting a Crawford raised hand at the end of the fight. So yeah, no, maybe that's the biggest surprise that I thought. When it was so close, I was teetering on the edge of Crawford, but really, what we've seen has made me think that made me even more confident in that pick. The thing is, Crawford's the favourite, and the lines were changing a little bit overnight. So I was thinking maybe the smart money is on Spence, but I don't know. Have you seen the betting lines? And where do you think the smart money is? Even if you think one guy might win, but
well, I think because it's a 50-50 fight, and I do believe it's a 50-50 fight, it wouldn't surprise me if either man won, and I'd probably bet the underdog. If Crawford was the underdog, I'd bet on him, and Spence is, just so it happens, the slight underdog, so I'd be betting on Spence. But
do you think draw is a good play, or do you think that's a waste of money?
Everybody's talking about the draw, aren't they? There's lots and lots of people. I think you can get 16, 17 to 1. I think there's a place in Vegas that's got it at plus 1,700, which is 16 to 1 in the UK market. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth a few quid on the draw. Remember to gamble responsibly, and remember to gamble on Bet365. But anyway, how do people feel about ceremonial weigh-ins? That's something that's a lot, become a lot more common for the big fights. I know it's something that the UFC do well, which is where you cover. What do you think to them? Because I quite like the kind of the snarling face-off when they're both clearly just made the weight and dehydrated, which not advocating for dehydration, but it does add that extra element of kind of spice and snipe to it, doesn't it?
So I would add the caveat that I'm really used to it from covering MMA shows, particularly in the UFC, because they do that just seems like the way it's done. And I think it is actually potentially more fighter friendly, because if you're dehydrated and you're making weight, you can make the weight first thing in the morning. And then you've got the rest of the day to replenish and start feeling good again, rather than have to wait around, particularly in this heat at 3 in the afternoon to then begin your hydration process. So I feel like the actual weigh-in should be open to the media. I think there should be checks, because there has been times in MMA where some people watching might recall if they watch UFC as well, where a fighter has to strip down naked, so the towel comes up, and then there have been some fighters that lean on the towel to reduce to like gain a couple of pounds edge. So I feel like the media should still be just to provide a check and balance to any shenanigans that might go on like that. But that's the only thing that I would really complain about, and to be fair, I haven't even really complained about it today. But yeah, I think ceremonial weigh-ins are fine, providing the media has access to the behind closed doors weigh-in, just to make sure that everything is going ahead as planned, and that it's fair. Because if somebody's trying to game the system by putting their hands on the towel when they can't make weight, and then they make a weight that they're not actually at, they've then gained a competitive advantage because the opponent has made weight in the right way. But as for the ceremonial weigh-in, I think it's more, if it's more fighter friendly, I also think it's more fan friendly, because then you can get, that was one thing that I really noticed just today as well. I knew that this event would be, well attended, but I didn't realize just how many people would be at that ceremonial weigh-in. It was packed, not just on the lower tier, but on the upper tier as well. And I think that rubs off on the excitement of the media covering it as well. So I actually think it's a good thing for both the fighters, the fans, and the press, providing the press can get in to the behind closed doors real weigh-in earlier in the day.
Absolutely. Because you want to see it. You want to see the angst and all of that. It kind of makes it. Getting a lot of questions about what time the fight starts. I'd be amazed. Well, it's not going to happen before 4 o'clock in the morning at home, which is 8 o'clock local time. Usually about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 p.m. aren't they, on the West Coast for the big events?
Yeah, I think they've got they're mindful of the time on the East Coast. So yeah, I think 8:30. Yeah, 9 would be pushing it. I think over here 9 would be pushing it here, because that would be midnight for New York. But yeah, what do you do these days, Rob? Do you set your alarm and wake up, or are the days of staying up all night? They are long in my rearview mirror, I've got to tell you.
No, I try and stay up, and it's not. I like watching all of the undercards. So like setting your alarm for a main event, there's always the chance that you're gonna sleep through the alarm. B, you're gonna sleep through the alarm. B, you're gonna miss the start of the fight because it will start earlier, and it won't be this and it won't be that. So I tend to kind of stay up, to be honest. But lately, probably in the last year or so. I think the wars are starting to get to me. The miles on the clock are a bit too much, Alan. So yeah, I've started to fall asleep a little bit now.
Well, you're not as watched as me then. That's good to hear.
But no, I tend to try and stay up and try and watch as many of them as I can. Moses wins on points in Telford. Did Moses Atalma go the distance with Kevin Espindola? Can anybody verify that? I've not been able to check out. Ben, did Ben have a bet on that? Unfortunately, Ben, I mean, not Ben, because, yeah, Atalma won on points, Rob. Thanks, Sean Brown. Big up, Sean Brown. Fantastic work this week for Boxing News. Sean Brown, the main man in the live chat. Don't forget, guys, please hit that like button. Get your comments and questions in for myself and Boxing News Verified. Get myself questions in for myself and Alan Dawson. It's starting to fill up a little bit here in the media room. I think it's probably because lunch is about to start.
I was going to say it's because the barbecue's probably here.
The barbecue's starting out. Are you going to the red carpet, Alan?
So the red carpet is outside. It is going to be 115, 116 in English. That's like 46 Celsius, and it's 3 hours. So it's 4 till 7. I love a red carpet event. I don't love it that much to be standing outside in the sun for those hours. So I'm going to check it out at 4 and see if it's busy. And if it's busy, I'll hang around. If it's not, I'm going to go bounce back into the venue, be around here, and then I'll come back at 6:30 when I think the fashionably late people will be arriving to then go through the carpet themselves. I definitely want to check it out because I think it's a nice change of pace for sports events. I think red carpet events happen all the time, in like entertainment and those sorts of industries. And yeah, I'm a fan of them because I think it's a little bit something different, and I think it adds to the Hollywood glamour when boxing is this big, and the pageantry. That's what I want to see.
Okay, just going to try and run through here. Mixed memorabilia. I can ask a question, but no answer. Sorry, mate. Ask the question again. I'm trying to keep up with it. There's quite a few comments in the live chat. Matt here's you sit in ringside. I'm not sure. I don't know where my seat is, to be honest. I haven't my credentials down there. I don't think so though. We've got Elliot Wurzel ringside, providing the ringside report for Boxing News, for the website, for the magazine, and everywhere in between. Just having a look at some of the others. Big Man Ting, where's Castillo, bruv? Castillo's at home. I've been speaking to him a few times this week. He's very excited about the fight. I think we'll try and get him out here for a show at some point. But Castillo's busy. Castillo's a superstar back home in the UK, as people know. So, yeah, he's not been able to come out for everything, but he's very excited. I actually got him, I don't want to say in case he's watching, but I got him a T-shirt. I got him a Spence Crawford T-shirt to bring back to him.
Have you guys talked about what happened with Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo?
No, so we spoke a little bit about it. Some people had mentioned it, but why don't you tell us from your perspective, Alan? I mean, I know you love a bit of gossip and you love a bit of chat. So we're gonna have Alan.
The thing is, it always adds to the narrative. So it wasn't anywhere near this bad, but it reminded me of when Conor McGregor, the story started with the Conor McGregor thing when Artem Lobov got slapped by Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't know what year this was. I'm guessing
you're in dangerous territory
2017,
here,
2018. This was in New York. Artem Lobov was at the time one of Conor McGregor's best mates. Conor McGregor was in Dublin. He got a plane full of like 10 or 12 of his mates. He flew straight over to New York, stormed a press conference, picked up a dolly, like a trolley type, metal thing, threw it at a bus, injured a few fighters on board trying to get hold of Khabib. That fight then happened about 8 to 9 months later, and the UFC used the footage to promote the fight. So this struck me as something that reminded me of that, because when you have Jamal Charlo presumably saying something to Caleb Plant, and then Caleb slapping him with his left, looked like a pretty good slap, completely tilted Jamal's face. And then that spilled over into the parking lot where it just seemed like you could put the Benny Hill music to this, because there were people falling all over the place. I think even Jamal and Jamal's wives were getting into it.
Yeah.
But so the footage that I think will be used as promotion would be Caleb slapping Jamal. And why wouldn't that fight happen later in the year? It's an in-house fight. It's easy to make. And now people are going to want to see it because there's obviously a little bit of needle there. And again, it adds to, that's, Caleb uses Vegas as a base. It's a bit of an adopted city of his.
Yeah, he used to train at City Gym, didn't he?
And for me, that's a good fight. And if you had a good co-main, that's a really, really nice, at the very minimum, Showtime Championship boxing event. Could
Who
it be
do you like in that fight?
I actually like Caleb, providing he. When I saw Benavidez' plan, the one thing I thought was, why didn't that fight get stopped? Because when somebody's getting beaten that much in like the 11th, 12th round, granted you're at the very end, but any further damage can, I wouldn't say ruin a career, but it can definitely change your career a little bit.
Yeah.
But what really impressed me with Plant was just he was just so unbelievably tough. And yeah, I just gave him credit for that warrior's instinct to kind of, not want to give up, still try and fight through. But yeah, for me, I thought maybe his trainer should have stopped it, if not the referee, because he wasn't going to help himself in that point. But Jamal, just inactivity can be a killer. So providing that the Benavidez loss hasn't beaten some of Plant's career out of him, I would still expect him to be able to box and show. He's the bigger guy than Jamal, and Jamal hasn't fought since, when would it have been, 2021. But I'd love to see it, because if Jamal could win, that's a future opponent for Canelo. I kind of feel like maybe they would. I feel like that should be the fight next, but
now maybe save Jamal for Canelo.
If Canelo beats Jamel, it's like the narrative is easy. Oh, I'm the bigger brother. Come and pick on me, and see what happens. So then, if the 3-fight deal that Canelo's got with Showtime and PBC would be Jamel, and then Jamal, and then Benavidez on Cinco de Mayo or Mexican Independence Day next year. There's an embarrassment of riches actually in this weight class. It's like the new 154, I think, for PBC and Showtime, because you're not even then mentioning David Morrell, and you're not even then mentioning, by that time it could be 2025, Errol Spence. If he's winning, then he could be a future Canelo opponent.
Talking about the Canelo fight, isn't
Yeah.
he? Sorry, Alan, to jump in, because Mixed Memorability's asked this question, and I just told him to ask it. So anyway, what is both guys' biggest weakness in this fight? I'm going to come to you first, Alan.
Wow,
What's the biggest
good
weakness?
question. I just feel like Spence maybe have been through the wars, but not in the ring, just from like how unlucky somebody can be outside of the ring, or the amount of damage he's taken outside of the ring. Could that come up against him? Crawford maybe age, if movement is 35 years old. What do you think?
It's difficult to say a weakness, because they're both so well-rounded in different ways. I think Spence's biggest weakness potentially could be his inactivity. I'm not saying about him as from a technical point of view, but inactivity, I think, is a potential weakness for him in this fight. Terence Crawford, I think, natural size. I think he's now a fully fledged welterweight. I don't think he can make 140, but I do think that he is naturally smaller than Spence. That's not a controversial take. I know we've seen people saying that, the size difference isn't significant. Look, I've seen them face to face, and the size of Spence's back and shoulders, I think, is significant. And I think that's, if you could call it a weakness, I think he is the naturally smaller man.
Yes, it's tough to say weakness in terms of style, but maybe in terms of I sometimes feel like how skillful Spence would look in what he does in terms of inside fighting and fighting in the pocket and things, if he was fighting at the level Crawford had. So if that's going to be a weakness in Crawford's, if he's fighting at a level lower than what Spence has, now he's suddenly jumping up to a big show such as this, whether Spence's experience in the this to me for Spence is just another big fight for him. Obviously it's the biggest fight of his career, but he's had so many fights, headlining Jerry's World and taking on World, collecting belts, strap season.
Season.
This is just the missing piece in that puzzle for him. So I've sometimes thought how many times has Crawford really tested himself at 147? And I don't think it's been that many. I would say I'm actually quite disappointed in, how few challenges he's really seeked out, whether, people might defend him and say, oh, yeah, but there's political reasons and promotional reasons why those sorts of fights haven't been made. But I did hear that, before Crawford took the Avanesian fight, if he did really want a fight before he was going to jump in with Spence, he could have possibly put forward a pitch to PBC or Al Heyman saying, let's do a 2-fight deal. The first fight is with, someone not Spence on the PBC roster, but it's on the same card as Spence. And then that's a pay-per-view. You measure how many sales that would do. And then you've got a kind of idea of what sort of guarantee both guys could get before they headline a show together. But yeah, so yeah, a weakness for me. It's just his thin resume at 147, potentially coming up against him when he's suddenly jumping into the biggest fight at 147.
Okay, there we have it. That's all we've got time for from Alan Dawson. We're going to let you shoot over there and go get me some barbecue.
Go get that barbecue.
Go get a barbecue for me. But before we let you go, Alan,
Yeah.
What's the final prediction? Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford.
Crawford decision. I've been feeling it all week, so I've got to kind of put it on the line now. Crawford decision, but in the back pocket, Spence finish. But I think the more likelier result is Crawford W, and probably 117, 111 type.
Crawford,
yeah. 116, 110, 117, 11 type of decision. Appreciate you, Rob. It's been great coming on these live shows.
Thanks.
Been loving seeing you and Ben in my new home city, and hopefully see you again for Jamel Canelo.
I don't think you'll see me again for Jamel Canelo. But yeah, Jamello. But I'll see you at some point. But thanks very much, Alan, for stopping
Nice one,
by.
guys.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Okay, we are still going. Rob cutting it short as soon as the buffet opens. Yeah, something like that. Man, I'm hungry, man. I've been having like one meal a day since we've been here. I haven't missed it, but I kind of have missed it, where you don't really eat any food and you just live the whole time drinking coffee. So for my breakfast every day this week, all I've had is coffee. So yeah, about that life in here in Las Vegas. It's eat what you can when you can. So we've got some good messages here. Apparently, doesn't matter which boxer you prefer. It's the fight of two unbeaten greats that makes this fight exciting, says Mr. Bipolar Matty Howard. Yeah, I think so. I think it's hang on 1 second. Just looking at something here. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, random. Anyway. Sorry, moving on there. Moving on, we have over 700 of you now watching the Spence Crawford live stream ahead of the show tonight at the T-Mobile Arena. The undercard has started. The prelims have started. I'm not sure if they're available on Showtime on the YouTube channel, but for the UK audience, 1 o'clock in the morning, it's going to get started on TNT Sports, 5 p.m. local time. The main card starts here at the T-Mobile Arena, but we're just skimming through and trying to talk a few little bits and pieces before we get going in there. Any big pizzas at the buffet? I don't know yet. It's all the way over there. Stop talking about the buffet. You are making me hungry, and I'm going to end up cutting things short. Is the kid who's fighting Pitbull any good? Says Takatika. Giovanni Cabrera is an unbeaten fighter. His biggest win of his career so far, his kind of only real notable win was against Gabe Flores Jr., once highly thought of prospect at Top Rank. There you go. They're bringing in the food now, guys. Once highly thought prospect at Top Rank. Cabrera is quite basic. He's a southpaw, but he's not a very tricky southpaw. He's quite open, square on, and fights a little bit with his chin in the air. So I think that Cruz's going to win that fight fairly comfortably and fairly quickly as well. Cabrera is going to need to be very, very tough, I think, to stay in there. It's going to be a hard fight for him. Matt Lane says, anything in particular on the undercard you're looking forward to? I think we've already done that one, which I answered. Nonito Donaire versus Alejandro Santiago. I think it's a really good fight. Donaire, of course, one of the great fighters of his generation, one of the great fighters of all time, really. Nonito Donaire, absolute nailed-on Hall of Famer. But he is 40 years old. He has been inactive since that knockout loss to Noriega Inoue. So I'm not sure what he's got left. We'll find out against Alejandro Santiago, because that is exactly the type of test that will show you where you're at in your career. Mix Errol doesn't have angles, and Bud isn't athletic as he once was, and crosses his feet at times when returning. I mean, these are some wild messages you're highlighting here, Ben. But yeah, I'm going to try and go through this. Who is this Uranus Tellus guy? He is a Cuban former amateur standout. I think he's a teammate of David Morrell. Saw him yesterday. Lugar Latour says, what outcome of the Spence versus Crawford fight will you be more shocked at? I think I'd be shocked if the fight goes early. If the fight goes any time before 6 or 7 rounds, I'd be quite surprised. Or if it's just completely dominant. If it's completely one-sided and Crawford doesn't get into the fight or Spence doesn't get into the fight, then I'd be very surprised. There's such good fighters that winning a fight like that and dominating in that fashion, I think would be very, very impressive and very, very rare. So any dominant win for either fighter would surprise me, but certainly if it goes early in the fight. What's UK fight time? It won't be before 4 o'clock in the morning. I think you're probably about 4:30 a.m. UK time for the main event. What's the running order for the main card? UK time, Pitbull, co-main. Hang on 1 second. Guys, just going to close down my WhatsApp because people are talking a load of stuff that I don't care about when I'm very busy. So just going to shut that off. When Spence moves up, who do you think would be a good fight? Well, it depends on what happens with Jamel Charlo. Obviously, undisputed champion at 154 pounds is moving up to box Canelo Alvarez at 168. I don't see Jamel moving back to super welterweight, moving back to 154. So I'd quite like Errol Spence versus Tim Tszyu. How about that? Do people like that? Spence versus Tszyu? I quite like that. If Crawford moves up, yeah, Crawford versus Tim Tszyu. Who knows? I think it'd be quite interesting to see. I think these guys will probably fight again at 154 if that is the case, but we'll see. I think it'll be the biggest fight for them, the biggest money. Yeah. Hate to put a downer on it, says Christopher Anthony, but I reckon this will be like Mayweather Pacquiao, KG, I think he's saying in there. Tyler, you going to come on? You going to come on and say hello? Oh, Tyler from ES News. He's got very shy over there. Such a big, warm smile. Lighting up fight week, but he doesn't want to come on here on the Boxing Show on live. When Spence moves, yeah, we've had that one already. Tszyu versus Spence would be superb. Yeah, I really like that one. James Williams, I think that would be a great fight. Trying to go through here. Okay, what do you think about the fight clashing with UFC? I couldn't give less of a if I tried, mate, to be honest with you. I really couldn't care less about the clashing with the UFC. What's the running order for the main cards? UK time, Pitbull, co-main. I don't know, man. You'll be able to find that on Twitter, I think. I think the pay-per-view card starts at 1 o'clock in the morning UK time. I think it's 3 fights on the pay-per-view card, which will be Isaac Cruz versus Cabrera as the co-main, Donaire versus Santiago, and I'm not sure if there's another fight on the pay-per-view card, or if it's 3 fights or 4, but I don't know what time they will be. Main event expected about 4:30 a.m. UK time, about 8:30 p.m. here local time in Las Vegas. Don't forget, guys, get your questions coming in. Hit that like button. Please stop spamming in the chat. Spence Crawford live and free. Pay for it, man. Pay for it. Please don't stream this fight. If you have the opportunity to buy this fight, I know times are hard for everybody, and I know nobody likes to spend extra money when you don't have to. But if you're not going to spend money on this fight, then you don't get to moan about spending money on other fights. Why is this fight pay-per-view and other fights that we've had to pay for in the last 12 months? This is one to pay for, man. So I'm just going to accidentally, on purpose, remove the Spence Crawford live stream spammers in the chat and get rid of all of that. How much do you think Spence has deteriorated since the Brook fight? If not, I'd pick Spence point out work. I mean, that was a long time ago, Errol Spence versus Kell Brook. So I don't think he's deteriorated at all, really. I think there's an argument to make that Errol Spence's last performance against your Dennis Ugas was the best performance of his career against an unbeaten world champion who just had a great win over, admittedly old, past his best, Manny Pacquiao. But yeah, I don't subscribe to this notion that Spence is damaged goods. And I think that anybody who suggests that kind of takes a little bit of the credit away from Crawford if he wins. If Crawford goes in there and does a job on Errol Spence, I think that says more about Terence Crawford than it does about Errol Spence at this stage of their career. So I don't think Spence has deteriorated. I think he's developed as a fighter, as most do, over the years, and I think he's still very much an elite level welterweight. MB, if you go to Showtime Sports YouTube, they're showing the undercard from midnight. Okay, so that is going to be in another hour UK time. Keeping going. Why do most boxing guys hate UFC? Oh, mate, I just can't be bothered. Can't be bothered anyway. Christopher Anthony, well done, Rob and the team. You've been superb as usual levels. Thanks very much, Christopher Anthony. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Boxing News and all of our post-fight stuff, which will be coming out tomorrow. Michael Sow says, how hyped are you for this fight? I'm so hyped. Last time I was this hyped was when Bruno versus Tyson. God, that was a while ago. It was 30 years ago, man. But yeah, big up Michael Sow. Yeah, great fight. Very hyped for it. I think it's probably the most excited I've been for a fight that I've covered live, to be honest with you. I think this is the best fight I would have ever covered on paper. Obviously, we have to see what happens when they get in there. Boxing Fight Simulations. Great stream again, Rob. Been on fire this week. Can't wait. Thanks very much. Means an awful lot. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So I'm going to keep plugging it because that's what I get told to do. But yeah, we're cooking. We're cooking. Okay, what's been Spence's hardest fight and what's been Crawford's hardest fight? Spence's hardest fight. Brook was a difficult fight. He had to work a few things out there. We also had a good fight with Sean Porter. Yeah, I'd probably say the Kell Brook fight for Errol Spence was his most difficult fight. Going away on enemy turf against, look, I know people talk about Brook on the back of the Gennady Golovkin performance, but that was still a very sharp Kell Brook for 6 or 7 rounds. Faded late in the fight, which he did prior to the Gennady Golovkin fight, against Carson Jones and what have you. Brook was, not considered to be a 12-round breakneck speed fighter. And Spence really dug into him and ground him down and obviously got him out of there. So I'd say that for him. For Spence, I would say Kell Brook. Terence Crawford's hardest fight. He's not had too many hard fights. He's not, been in too many competitive fights, really. He's kind of won his fights very, very clearly. You'd probably have to say on paper, at least, it was Sean Porter. Very close fight at the time of the stoppage. We've all seen the clip where Crawford comes out and just puts him away after being told that he's behind. So I would probably say that. What do you guys think? What's Errol Spence's most difficult fight to this date? What's Terence Crawford's most difficult fight to this point? Let us know in the comments here. Will we get a Boxing Show podcast review in the week? I'm not sure, mate. I'm actually moving house when I get home. I'm very excited to be moving house. So I don't know. We get back Monday afternoon. And then, I'm not really around too much the week that we're back. I think I'm going to try and do some stuff tomorrow. Myself and Barry, and maybe, if possible, if there's a way for us to do it, getting Andy Clark sort of beamed in via satellite. But if not, then we'll do one at some point. We obviously love doing the boxing show, and it was a real shame that the one that we did in the preview for this, unfortunately, didn't make it out. But yeah, we'll do one at some point. Just not sure when it's going to be. Neil Francis, you're doing a great job, Rob. Cheers. Thanks very much, Neil. Thank you very much. Christopher Anthony, I think the Mikey Garcia was a good win. People don't say much of it because Garcia moved up. Yeah, it was. You would have expected Spence to stop him. Actually, at the time, had the largest bet of my life on Errol Spence to win by stoppage, so that one still hurts. But anyway, less said about that one, the better. Looking forward to seeing Donaire. What a legend, absolute legend, Nonito Donaire. It's going to be interesting to see if he's still got it, guys. I mean, I have to say, eventually age catches up with everybody, and it might be tonight for Nonito Donaire. How many hours is the fight? I don't know. What's it? 8 brings it through to 11. I don't know. I think the fight will probably be in about 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours. Rob, are you going to cry when Fury obliterates Usyk? No, mate, so don't take sides because I don't really care. I'd love to see the fight, though. Hopefully the fight happens. Great fight. But yeah, I don't care who wins that one. Michael Sal, 40 years old, man. Sorry, Michael. Hit that like button and help us get 300 likes. Yes, absolutely. How many hours to the fight? 5.5. Spence versus Sean Porter was the hardest fight. It was 50-50 until he gets dropped. Yeah, but I mean, so was Crawford versus Porter. Obviously, Crawford went and stopped him, but that was a very close fight through 10 rounds. Brook always got my respect for fighting Prime Triple G. Yeah, bit of a fool's errand, I felt. Moving up 2 weight classes to fight Gennady Golovkin when nobody in the world wanted to box him. It was a very brave move. Actually, interestingly enough, when Kell Brook came back and boxed Sergei Rabchenko, I asked Kell Brook, Dominic Ingle, who was Kell Brook's trainer, and Eddie Hearn, of course, Kell Brook's promoter at the time. I asked all 3 of them the same question: do you regret taking the Gennady Golovkin fight? Dominic Ingle and Eddie Hearn said that they didn't regret it, and Kell Brook said that he did regret it, which I thought was quite telling. Usually those things are the other way around. But anyway, Mean Machine gave Crawford work. Yep. Liam Davies obliterated Cunningham in round 1. Wow. Early stoppage for Liam Davies. Haven't seen that. Wow, that's a really impressive performance if he's gone through him in a round. Really good. 5 hours. Yeah, something like that. 5 hours, probably just over 5 hours. Going through. I think we probably are going to wrap up fairly shortly. Yeah, so we are going to wrap up slightly soon. But do get those questions in. Do get those likes in before we go. If you've got anything that you want to ask, if we do see anybody that's worth grabbing and bringing them in, go get Marc Abrams. Marc's down at the back. Get Marc Abrams in. Somebody to speak to. I know they must be sick of hearing my voice. I've been talking pretty fast for quite a while. 107 minutes, apparently, YouTube is now telling me. What do you think about Haney versus Regis? I like Haney in that fight. Progre's a good fighter. I thought he was very poor against Zorilla. Very poor. And he really struggled to cut the ring down. He doesn't have the longest reach. He doesn't have the fastest feet. And I think that if you're going to box Devin Haney, not having a long reach and not having good feet and not really being able to cut the ring off is going to spell trouble. But I am joined by the main man himself, Marc Abrams, returning here to the Boxing News live show ahead of Spence Crawford tonight. Marc, before we talk about tonight's big fight, let's talk about last night. You had a couple of your guys in action on Friday night's Top Rank cards.
Yep.
How did they get on?
Well, I work with Split Team Management. We had Dante Benjamin Jr. fought to a draw. It's funny, he's a young 21-year-old super middleweight / light heavyweight, and he fought to a draw. William Langston record 8-3. Tough guy though. He's been in with some good fighters. He actually fought our fighter Khalil Ko, pretty good fight. So he's just 21 years old. Dante, I'm sure he'll learning experience and he'll be better for it. And I also work with RDR Promotions out of Philadelphia. We had Nahir Albright score the big upset over Carlos Balderas last night. Albright is a good fighter. He'd beaten 3 or 4 undefeated fighters. Had a disappointing loss to Jermaine Ortiz, which at the time, it was a very disappointing loss. But with the way Ortiz has fought since then with the great fight against Lomachenko, wasn't such a bad loss. And I think that fight actually proved that Nahir Albright belongs with some of these guys in the lightweight division, where he will, he deserves these kind of fights. He fights Balderas, the heralded Olympian, and Nahir just grinded it out and got the victory last night. So I'm very happy for his performance, and he's going to get another big shot somewhere against somebody in the lightweight division.
Yeah, if there's a division to be involved,
absolutely.
If there's one to gate,
absolutely,
the lightweight division. So,
and there's a couple guys out there. I'm only the PR guy, so I'm not going to call guys out. But I think that he would match up very well in terms of getting an opportunity and being more competitive and getting wins in coming up, hopefully in the next 3-4 months.
Okay, sorry there, Marc. I just had my phone's been going off.
I'm sure it's fight day.
It's fight day. We're very excited.
Boxing News is it's probably the best boxing magazine out there.
Probably.
So. It is. It is.
Off. Marc was about to be kicked off of the stream.
No. It definitely. For what you guys do weekly, I mean, come on now.
I will take absolutely none of the credit. Matt Christie and the guys on the editorial
you're
side.
You're part of the family, so.
Very much so. Very much so. Just going to look through a couple of these questions here. Who do you think is the next step for the person that loses this fight, Marc?
Well, it depends who it is, because Errol Spence Jr., I guess he said in so many words, he's going up to 154 pounds, win, lose, or draw. He even said, I think if it's up to him, the rematch will be at 154 pounds. Have you heard that quote this week? Or
Yeah. I mean, I was quite surprised that Spence was that open about it, to be honest, so early in the week. He's been
making 147 for so long.
It's not a surprise, but to volunteer that information before a big fight, I thought was quite interesting, because usually, fighters will say those things behind closed doors.
Well, if it's Spence, he's going up to 154. I was just talking to a friend of mine. This would be badass. So if Crawford wins, say he wins decisively, and maybe we don't get that rematch, and say he goes up to 154 and the sanctioning bodies will tell, maybe Jermell Charlo is going to do his one-off at 68 and maybe come back down to 54. How about Charlo Crawford, for Crawford going for undisputed, not 1, not 2, but his 3rd division?
I mean, that would be unbelievable. It would be some achievement if
he
was able to do that.
But I could see that, because we know that the sanctioning bodies, if Charlo says, you know what, I'm taking this 168 fight, but I'm coming back down to defend my 154-pound titles, How about that?
Yeah, it would be interesting. To be honest with you, though, Mark, and I don't know if you'd agree with me. I can't see Jamal boxing a 154
No,
again.
I probably not.
Yeah,
I could see him going to 60.
yeah, I could see that because 60's wide open at the minute as well.
And obviously, I think we could see after some of the events that happened yesterday, which you can witness on all kinds of platforms, maybe your own as well. The slap heard around Las Vegas. I think we're going to see a fight between Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo sometime in the future, coming to a, as I like to say, coming to a pay-per-view property near you. Do you see that happening now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely, definitely, that's going to happen.
And it's funny, real quickly. Caleb Plant has the slapping incident in the gym with David Benavidez.
Yeah.
He's slapping and getting the fight with Canelo, and now I've known Caleb for a long time. He's a nice guy. I don't know why these people are. He's always getting in these outer ring.
It's
scraps.
just that macho, isn't it? Those alpha males. Once they're around each other, then that's it.
It's unbelievable.
Here's a fight. What about this at 154? Because I think that the way that things are, I can't see Jamel coming back, and I can see those belts fragmenting.
Correct.
How about for the vacant 154-pound title, or maybe an elevated version of it, Terence Crawford versus Tim Tszyu? What does that do for you?
Great fight. Great fight.
I'm really impressed by Tim Tszyu.
Great
I think
fight.
everybody's kind of, I feel like, getting on board with him now because his dad was such a great fighter, and everybody always has that reservation, don't they? With the famous father, the famous surname. Are they real? Are they that? But I think it's fair to say now that Tim Tszyu, that brilliant performance over Tony Harrison, is really establishing himself as something special. And obviously, had the win over Carlos Ocampo as well. But Tszyu looks like the real deal at 54.
And you know what? It's so weird. You see some of the sons of, Chris Eubank, and obviously over in England, and Tim Tszyu. They always say they get the opportunities because of their name. But you know what? I think they have to work extra harder to get that respect. And a fight with Terence Crawford, I think that's another badass fight. It's another badass fight. I mean, Tim Tszyu, I think, has earned his stripes, in my opinion.
Yeah,
has earned his stripes.
I believe so as well. And he'll also have his own ideas as well about fighting.
Yeah.
I don't see him stepping aside again. Obviously, the WBO he's the interim champion. So I think if those belts do become vacant, I don't see Tim Tszyu actually having to box for the title. I think he'll get upgraded.
And the thing about Crawford, because we've known him at 30 and 35 and 40, 47, and to 54, I mean, when is he pushing the limit too much in terms? Because he's not even a big 147 fighter.
No, he's not. I think he's now developed into a solid 147,
yeah, absolutely.
but not a big 147 by any stretch of the imagination.
Absolutely.
Fight that people have thrown in here in the live chat: Terence Crawford versus Teofimo Lopez. It's so difficult to write Lopez off now, isn't it? Like, it's virtually impossible.
No, but because it's funny because not too long ago, they were talking Taylor against Crawford, and you see what Teofimo did with Taylor. So, because when they were both under the top rank banner with Crawford and Taylor, that was a fight being bandied about.
For a long time.
So it's legit that you can now put Teofimo and Crawford.
Absolutely.
Then obviously the whole top rank.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be an interesting one to make, I think, with all of the politics. Maybe Crawford goes and returns and boxes as an away fighter, admittedly the A side on the top rank card. Be an interesting one. Alex Olds, big up Alex Olds, the main man himself, says, have a great night, mate. Phenomenal content all week. Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Alex Old. Let us know what you'll be doing tonight. You're going to be staying up and watching the fight.
Your setup here is A+ here, man.
We're trying our best. I take none of the credit for it. It is Ben Faruqi who is over there talking and not actually paying attention anyway, so I might take some of the credit while he's over there. Get through some of these other questions.
It's kind of like he's the guy making you pretty this week, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, he's got a long way to go before he makes me pretty. Not been as excited for a fight since Mayweather-Pacquiao. When was the last time you were as excited about a fight? Was it Mayweather-Pacquiao? Or because the kind of feeling was is that
it's like this, probably.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, it's funny, guys like you and me who are grinding in this business every day. We get excited. I guess we get excited once fight day happens. Even when Tank fought Ryan, you get excited. But this has been like a long, lingering kind of excitement. Yeah. I mean, it's been building up for years and years and years.
It certainly has. I'm probably, I don't know. more excited, maybe not more excited than Mayweather Pacquiao, but it's definitely up there.
You
There's
know
a
what?
different type of excitement as well, because I felt like there was an air of kind of not inevitability, but there was a clear favourite in Mayweather Pacquiao for me, whereas I don't think there is here.
And the thing about that, I don't know if we thought the fight was going to stink the way it stung, but we thought that Mayweather had fought defensively, and these guys are both offensive fighters.
Yeah.
So I think that this fight definitely, like I thought, you think about the fight, 80%, because 80%, hey, of us thought it would be a great fight, but there was, because of the way Mayweather fought. But these guys are going. We know tonight that there's going to be action tonight. At some point, there's going to be a lot of sustained action. I think the first couple rounds they may feel each other out, and then round 4, round 5, I think it's on. I really think it's on.
One of the questions that we had earlier, and I'll kind of throw it over to you now, Mark, is about Terence Crawford's punching power. Can he hurt Errol Spence?
I think
Spence
he
is obviously a
definitely
bigger
can.
guy.
I
I
can.
agree. Just expand on that.
I definitely can. I mean, he's hurt bigger guys before. He's hurt bigger guys in his fights as a welterweight. Errol Spence, he's just a guy. You definitely can get hurt, and he's been hurt. Or Dennis Ugas, I'm not going to say hurt him, but he gave him something to think about. Terence Crawford is a much more pinpoint puncher. And if he has, and like I said to you guys earlier in the week, if he has Spence in this much trouble, it's going to be over, because he's the best finisher in this game.
He certainly is. Getting a lot of questions here about the UK ring walk time. I think about 4:30 a.m. in the UK. So set your alarms or get the coffee on, because it is going to be a late one. It's not going to be certainly not before 4 a.m. UK time, which is 8 p.m. over here in Las Vegas. Usually about 8:30 p.m.
Usually when the 9 o'clock starts are here. I'm an Eastern guy. I'm a Philadelphia guy. So I say 9 o'clock. They don't walk. I've never seen a ring walk before 11:15ish, 11:30. So with the extra hour, hopefully there's not too much hyperbole going on, because everyone would have bought the pay-per-view by then. So it's not like you got to hype it even more. So hopefully between 11 and 11:30 Eastern, which is 4 to 4:30 back in the UK.
Okay, we're still chugging along here. 554 of you watching now. I understand that it's getting late, so we're starting to lose some of our UK audience. Don't forget to please like and drop a comment. I know you're all right, Mark. It's gone up since you've been on here. You're fine.
Okay.
Where can I watch this free? Don't watch it for free. Pay for it.
For it.
Like we all moan about pay-per-view, and there's not, we don't like to pay, but this is one that we have to pay for. You can't moan about the ones you don't want to pay for unless you pay for the ones that you absolutely one. Pay your money.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's one worth paying for,
definitely,
this is it.
Yeah,
this is it. Like I said, these are 2 of the 4 best fighters in the world. I don't, we were talking top ranked show last night about pound for pound and who's best. The 4 best fighters in the world, put them in any order you want. Right now, before this fight, are Terence. I'm not saying Crawford or Naya in a way, Alexander Usyk and Errol Spence Jr. Tonight, one of those guys will probably leave the top 4, because if there's a loser of this fight, one of them will move in. Maybe you put Tyson Fury, or you put Tank, or you put Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, whoever Artur Beterbiev. You have to kind of at least get into the discussion. He's 19-0, 19 knockouts. Dimitri Bivol, Canelo Alvarez as well. So those are the 4. And you got put out. So those are the 5 best fighters in the world.
We've discussed it a little bit in this already. Jamal Charlo versus Canelo Alvarez. Are you giving Jamal Charlo a shot in that fight?
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
Because I don't think Canelo Alvarez is on the other side of the mountain, but he's getting towards, maybe a little bit on the other side. Jamal Charlo, you can't take away what he's done. I mean, he's a good fighter. With the exception of the one Tony Harrison slip up, and he made amends for that. Jamal Charlo, stylistically, he's young, and if he's hungry on September 30th, he's definitely in that fight.
Inactivity a concern for Jamal?
Not really, because these fighters fight twice a year. They're fighting every 8 months. It's going to be a little bit more than a year, I think. Is that what it's going to be?
Last time when he boxed Castano, when was the Castano fight?
I think it would be July of last year, maybe.
Oh no, it's before then. It's been out for a little bit longer than a year, I think. is the Castano fight. Oh no, okay, no, it was May of last year.
So
by
it'll
the
be
time
May
the fight
before,
comes out, it'll
be about
16
16 months.
something like that. Yeah, so
If he's been living life okay outside the ring, I don't think it's much of a problem.
do you think the weight's going to be a big issue? in
That
fight?
that might be, but the one thing about Canelo Alvarez, he's 5'8". He's not a big guy. He's a thick guy, but he's not a big guy. He's where he's gonna be behind in the weight, moving up 54 to 68. He's gonna make up being 6'1".
Yeah, and I think I posted a tweet a couple of weeks ago when the fight was announced. They're actually world champions at the same time at 154.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very, very interesting because now obviously their weight classes apart. There've been 3 weight classes apart in the not too distant past. So yeah, I give Charlo a chance, but I do expect Canelo to get to him.
I do, but I think Charlo's in the fight though. I think he's in the fight.
When will we see Tank versus Haney or Shakur, Mark?
Well, Haney, if you read the reports that came yesterday, he's going to move up to 140 pounds if able for a good year, probably. I think Haney, because I don't know what the situation is in terms of promotional. Is Haney going to be with Hearn for a couple fights, or if it's a one-off, it could happen. If it's a one-off, I could see Haney bouncing around a little bit, picking fights, so that I could see that happen maybe after the Prograis fight. I could see Haney. The fact that he has to keep his WBC title means maybe he wants a Shakur fight.
What's your thoughts on the keeping of the WBC title? I'll reserve my thoughts on it until after you go, Mark.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on him requesting to retain his lightweight title and move up to 140?
And then let me ask you a question. Did he request the other sanctioning bodies as well, or just specifically the WBC?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because that would think they maybe they'll order a Shakur interim title and then come back. I'm just trying to follow what's going, what he wants to do, why he wants just the WBC.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's because Mauricio has been open to doing that in the past. He did. One of the reasons why I'm very much against it is because we had a lot of the kind of the arse ache, as we say in the UK, a lot of the pain in the arse over the last few years we've had at lightweight came from Mikey Garcia holding on to his lightweight title when he jumped up to box Errol Spence. Then we had interim titles. Then we had franchise title. That was all kind of born out of that whole issue. So I would like to see the WBC learn from the mistakes in that regard. And not do that again, because it does mean that things become a massive backlog.
And like I said, I'm not disagreeing with you, but there's been precedent set. That's the only reason why.
And also, like for someone like Mikey, when Mikey Garcia jumped up to 147, he's clearly jumping up to a weight class that isn't his weight class.
Exactly.
Haney is bursting at the seams at lightweight.
Correct.
So it's not like, even with Canelo, when Canelo went up to 175, again, like, I don't necessarily agree with it. It's a little bit more understanding than, someone he's going to go to 140 anyway at some point. So why not just vacate your belts, go up to 140 and then just leave it there?
Yeah.
Just think it opens the floodgates to too many, political issues.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is if he's just doing it for one of the organizations to maybe keep a hope of a fight with Shakur Stevenson alive, it's a fight we want to see. So that's the only reason why I'm saying it. If he's told the other 3 organizations, I'll move up to 140 and whatever, I'm okay with it because we want to see Shakur and Haney.
Which is that the fight that you want? Is that the one at 135?
I don't know. At 135, because of his knockout prowess, I want to see Devin Haney against anybody. Not Devin Haney, Tank Davis against anybody. So
Tank versus Shakur Stevenson for me is the one. That's the one at lightweight.
Exactly.
That's the one I want to see.
That's the one I want to see. Whether it's Shakur or Haney, I want to see Tank involved.
One of the questions that we've just got here from Mixed Memorabilia. I'm trying to get to your questions a bit sooner than I have been in the past. What are your thoughts on some even entertaining an Inoue versus Davis bout?
And next.
It is ridiculous. I mean, Inoue's just jumped up from 118 pounds.
The only thing I could say is if we would have said Manny Pacquiao against Oscar De La Hoya, but way before, like a year or two, we would have said ridiculous. So I don't know if ridiculous, but I'm not into these guys moving up. He was moving up so many weight classes. Let him unify at 22. Let him unify at 20s. So let him go up the ranks.
Yeah. Where do you think he'll eventually bottom out? Where do you think, like, top out rather?
30.
Yeah.
30 maybe.
He would become, if he wins a world title at 30, he'd be a 6-weight world champion.
Exactly.
So it'd be pretty good going anyway.
And I could see 35 eventually, maybe jumping in, but not now. Like I said, let him win at 20. Let him win some fights at 26. Let him go up to at 22, then 26 and 30.
Who do you want to see him fight at 26?
Good question. Trying to think who. Trying to think. I don't know.
Fight that I really like, and it's not one that's really shared by many people, apparently. I've said it a few times and people seem to not really be too. I quite like Inoue versus Ray Vargas. I know Vargas is going to see. That's literally the reaction I've had from everybody. I know Vargas is going to box Brandon Figueroa. He's going to box Brandon Figueroa. Obviously, he has to get by him, but I want to see Inoue against somebody who's big and long and knows how to control distance.
And I think Vargas is a good fighter. Oshaki Foster fight notwithstanding, he's a good fighter. But he's long, and like you say, he's long and not the most exciting guy.
But that's why you've got to beat all of the styles. And anyway, against a guy who's big and long at the weight and can control the distance, I quite like that. I quite like seeing him work that out. I lean towards Inoue in that fight, but I would like to see him try and work that out. Okay, let's try and get more questions in for Marc before I let him go. I've managed to rob everybody from their work today. Just having a look, and the buffet is started. I'm going to go and get some food because
I hear you.
I've got. I don't want to eat on the stream though. People don't want to see me eating on the stream. No one wants to do that. Mixed memorabilia. What are your thoughts on Roberto Duran being one of the greatest ever? I think Duran and Ray Robinson are the best top two ever.
One of the greatest fighters, of course. Duran.
He's definitely one of the greatest fighters of all time. Absolutely. Big up Roberto Duran. Seen him a couple of times in the last year. Haven't seen him in a little while. But yeah,
always smiling these days.
Always smiling these days. He's like a little Panamanian.
And it's funny, he was a fighter. He was known to be an ornery, rough guy. Always smiling.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions for Marc before we let Marc go? Question here for me. Food really nice there, Rob. I don't really know, Luke. I've not really had too much of it this week, I have to say. I've been running around.
In Vegas, you always can find a good meal, though.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, a good meal is probably pushing it. I
don't know if you've said we had a real nice meal. I'm not good.
Where have you been eating this week?
What I'm saying, I don't know if you mentioned where we were the other night and who we were with.
We went to Wolfgang Puck, didn't we? What did you have there when you went there?
My main thing was the chicken. Was the organic chicken. But how about those pizzas that came out?
Yeah, they brought out some pizzas. Yeah, it's good. Well, you never get, look at me. I'm not starving.
And some good chicken skewers.
It certainly was.
I had a good meal after the fight at the Palms the other last night.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah. Of course, you were at the show last night, weren't you? Right. Going to try and just whiz through a couple more questions. I do actually have to go to the toilet as well. So we've been going now for 2 hours, over 2 hours.
Is that a TMI thing for?
No, they have plenty of information from me. But yeah, just get any more questions coming in before we wrap things up. I think I'm gonna head over, get some food, go to the toilet, and then come back. Probably maybe do another live at some point. Certainly, we'll be doing a live tomorrow. What about Frank Martin versus Keyshawn Davis? They had a little to do.
Too early. Keyshawn, get Keyshawn these 2-3 fights, 4 maybe get him 12-13-0. Then we'll see that.
What did you make of Andy Cruz's professional debut?
Yeah, I was. It's weird. You can look at it 2 ways. If you want to just look at him because a little hype that was around him, it was okay. But then again, he fought a guy like Juan Carlos Burgos, who's fought for the world title at least 3 times. So, to take on that in your pro debut. And win and pretty much win every round. That's impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I'd love to see that fight sooner rather than later in the pros, but I can't really see it happening.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Final question will go from the last round. Isaac Cruz versus Gervonta Davis rematch. Does that do anything for you, Marc?
if all the other fights are maybe not makeable at this point for Gervonta Davis, I'd rather see. Put it this way, I mean, we've heard the name Chris Colbert being talked about. I want Isaac Cruz over Chris Colbert. Chris Colbert lost his last fight. I mean, but he got the decision. So
He was beaten very clearly as well by Hector Luis Garcia.
exactly. Now, if there's nothing else better on the table, for Tank Davis. That was an exciting fight. It was good fighting spots. If Cruz looks good tonight and takes care of Cabrera inside of 7-8 rounds, maybe beats him up, I'm all right with it.
It's an option. It's not on the top of the list for me.
And I heard that they want to do a fight down in Baltimore for him. So, sure, why not?
I think Colbert down in Baltimore would probably be quite good commercially, but I don't see it being a massively competitive fight.
I think anywhere Tank Davis fights is good. I mean, he's proven New York, L.A., San Antonio, Baltimore, Atlanta. He's a draw. I mean, yeah. You may not like whatever he does outside the ring. The kid is a draw, and no questions answered on that.
He certainly is. Okay, final question from Takatika. Who will train Eubank Jr. for the Smith fight? I'm not too sure. I have heard one or two murmurs about Chris Eubank Jr. and
won't be Roy Jones though, huh?
Not Roy Jones. Roy Jones is now. He informed us exclusively on Boxing News yesterday that he's no longer working with Chris Eubank Jr.
That's why you got to go to Boxing News to get the scoop.
See, that's why we got Marc on here. He's like a cheerleader for us. Good man. Let's go, champ. But anyway, I think I've heard one or two kind of murmurs about Bomac for Chris Eubank Jr. So Brian McIntyre, of course, Terence Crawford's current trainer. So maybe Keyshawn Davis as well. So yeah, maybe that. Who knows? Okay, we are about to wrap things up because I do need to go to the toilet and I do need to get some food before we get started. Thanks to everybody who's joined so far. We have 1,249 votes on our poll.
Wow.
Spence versus Crawford. We have 51% for Terence Crawford.
That's why you have to pay for it for that earlier question.
41% for Spence and 8% for the draw. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got.
A lot of your fans here from the UK.
What, on this stream? I don't know, to be fair. We've got quite a few of them.
Well, I love the UK, so I love you guys, the best boxing fans out there.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a question, and maybe the fans out there. If this fight was taking place, and I know that the numbers aren't exactly the same because it's 4 o'clock in the morning, this was a primetime fight in the UK. Say we started out here 3 o'clock, the ring walks, whatever. I mean, it would be like hundreds of thousands of pay-per-views, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I don't know. So if say the fight was a 10 o'clock start, as in like a
ring
walk was 10 o'clock. You could do 100,000.
Still,
yeah, it's still good considering it's non-Brits. Yeah, not sure how many it'll do in the morning, early hours of the morning. I'm not expecting a ring walk to be about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know what it will do there. But yeah, it would be a big fight. Right, guys, we are going to wrap it up for, I guess, probably our first live stream of the day. Who knows how many more we'll do? Certainly more after the fight. Marc, thanks very much for stopping by.
Guys, and keep watching these guys on all the stuff that they're doing, and these guys are tremendous. Rob and Ben, absolute rock stars.
There we go. The endorsement from the main man himself, Marc Abrams. But thank you very much for everybody for stopping by. We'll be back again at some point, either before or straight after tonight's main event between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Remember to hit that like button, keep following, subscribing, and supporting Boxing News, and we will bring you the latest and greatest in boxing content. But from me, Rob Tebbutt, from Marc Abrams and the main man, Ben Faruqi, thanks very much for stopping by, and we will catch up with you very, very shortly.